My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. It is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 at 6:50 a.m. This is documentation regarding the federal prosecution of the third-party gang stalker AVANATH Capital Management, who is in violation of the Violence Against Women Act as it is stalking the occupant, which is what I represent, on the grounds of what is not its private property, but the facilitating venue where things, as a matter of documentation, establish that the third party is a place where the government is maintaining the program of federal group stalking and monitoring, where stalking and criminal surveillance remains underway. And for that, the third party company is going to be prosecuted as a domestic enemy, engaged in domestic terrorism, engaging in what is criminal, which is a war tactic against an American citizen who is remaining on the grounds of its apartment complex, where its residents and the employees of the third-party company are stalking as well on behalf and in concert, knowingly and intentionally, because this is a whole elaborate program that the state of California practices, and it's embedded into the society. So that's why you have where the people of the state are living, where the people of the state travel, where they work, everywhere that they are remaining, including in what are legally designated under the Constitution as public places. You are understanding when you're recognizing the specific environment, which is providing the ability to recognize the malice of the state that is gang stalking an American citizen. So I want to document this is what AVANATH Capital Management is engaging in. And while it does so, this is the prosecution of a corrupt company that is intentionally, knowingly, that is intentionally, knowingly, continuously, and maliciously engaging in what is a sex offense, which companies shall be prosecuted for and subject to damages for as well. While companies are being prosecuted for things such as terrorism, things such as sexual violence, things such as psychological torture, and that's what's underway at 6:49 a.m. AVANATH Capital Management's facilitating venue is in Ontario, California, where I have documented the pattern of conduct shown through the environment, which is the specific environment where the fake sun rises and where the fake sun sets as well. And this is also establishing the specific environment where the government is indeed stalking me specifically, and I've also established all angles of that P.O.C. That's for purposes of prosecuting the population that is maliciously acting with the government, that is stalking an occupant of the apartment complex, intentionally, knowingly, continuously, and maliciously. They do so in violation of the Violence Against Women Act as well. And this is to prosecute a third-party landlord company such as AVANATH Capital Management that is a HUD-regulated property. So this is, again, a company that's a sex offender, a company that's engaged in psychological torture and stalking, and also simultaneously and maliciously benefiting while masquerading as a legitimate company, maintaining a legitimate basis to house anyone in the community, let alone a targeted individual whom it is criminally keeping under surveillance inside of what is a private space where it is maintaining unlawful surveillance. And so that's why at 6:49 a.m. I want to document this, because this is also relevant to the demon-possessed police officers, the gang members who are gang stalking with Woodside Senior Apartments, with the people of the state who come onto the grounds where Woodside Senior Apartments remains as a facilitating venue in order to gang stalk via helicopters, via use of sirens like the entity did last night, March 3rd, 2025. The entity employed sirens while I was speaking about the very damning and probative evidence regarding the federal imprisonment of the demon D. Ramos, who was gang stalking on the video that you can see. Again, it's October 9th, 2024. He is gang stalking me by means of what is criminal summoning, and he and Corey are going to federal prison for it. And this is the property where that police department, which is, again, a terrorist organization, upon removing the veil where the demon-possessed are stalking as a means of the ways in which the city operates. It's a whole system of federal group stalking and monitoring through the way that the municipality operates. Everything that the municipality is doing, as I show you the specific environment, is centered around me. And it's also centered around what it is that I'm documenting, as I am a target individual who is aware of it and am documenting it. The entity is at this point showing its obsession with me, and now is merely engaging in the pattern of conduct based on mental illness, okay? Because you're understanding and you're witnessing me unveil what is the consequence for domestic terrorism that the government is practicing, and the consequences for it, analogous to going around and blowing up buildings and killing American citizens. That's also domestic terrorism, and you're not getting away with it. And it's also a very serious offense. And gang stalking is committed for the purpose of murdering and kidnapping someone that a mentally ill population derives pleasure from. And so when they can no longer gratify themselves and each other in secret by targeting an American citizen whom they are acting in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping them, now you're witnessing them do it in plain sight when the world is aware of what they are practicing as a city, as a state, as a population, and doing so with regard to showing their mental illness and showing their obsession, which is born of their demon possession. These are demons that are indeed, the demon possessed are indeed obsessed with the one whom they're monitoring and stalking. And that is the same. The police department is demon obsessed. They are obsessed. That's why they are stalking. Besides the fact that they are criminals, it's criminal activity. But their obsession is because they are indeed demon obsessed. Their behavior is because they are demon obsessed and demon possessed. And it's not a legal argument. It's not a defense for them. This is context regarding what the world is witnessing, the times that we're in, the devices of Satan and who Satan is using, and your ability to recognize the demon possessed also by their outward behavior and the environment that they're in. Demon possession is that which you are able to spiritually discern. And I've also proven, in order that other people who are ignorant about what surrounds them and what you're surrounded by and what people are doing to you and around you, for your information, for your protection, not to incite fear. Because clearly this is nothing to fear. AVANATH Capital Management's employees, including Linda Reyes, including the demon and Unit 41, and all of the adult occupants, very heavily documented terrorists, are going to federal prison, including the demons in Units 33 through 64, who are not asleep. And you know that they're not asleep. You know that they are up. You know that they're engaged in 24-hour surveillance, because at 6:49 a.m., where the fake sun has not even risen yet, which I've already shown and demonstrated, that the engineered light inside of the apartment has nothing to do with the fake sun that remains over the apartment for 9+ hours. It is a distinct method of recognizing ongoing criminal surveillance by the government, and the government is acting in concert with the population that lives at, for example, this apartment complex, not private citizens, not any constitutionally protected private speech. It's all state action, and it's all serving for what is federal prison for those that are stalking in Units 33 through 64. And that's what they're doing while they are awake, while they are stalking with the state. An engineered light swipes across the ceiling, the same engineered light that I've shown you on video, sweeping across the ceiling, reaching into the depths, for example, touching the cabinets and then sweeping across. This is what's happening at 6:49 a.m. And this is while the hitman, Tracy Banks, is inside of the apartment. She is gang stalking as well. She's engaged in psychological torture as well. She's acting with malice and impunity as well. She is subject to a federal prosecution as an entity is documented, while I remain inside of what is a private space and at a facilitated venue where stalkers are monitoring a woman inside of an apartment, which is a private space where the government is engaging in sexual violence, is engaging in stalking. The government is obsessed with me. That is, as it is demon possessed, filled with demon possessed individuals who are concentrating all of its governmental efforts and spending all of its resources on stalking me and monitoring me, and now doing so because I have exposed them, their condition, and Satan is obsessed with that as well. Just want to be clear. This is speaking to criminal conduct, though. So that obsession is a threat to your life. That obsession is speaking to what is a threat to your safety, because that obsession is also not merely admiration. That obsession is based on an ongoing desire to murder and kidnap as well. And that's also the inherent threat to police officers who are stalking you, which is what the Ontario Police Department are, and the Ontario Police Department have already been proven to be. So you have, again, this is what's going on inside of what is AVANATH Capital Management's on the venue, the grounds. The people of the state are going to federal prison for it. Paul Leon is being exposed and being removed from office for it. The city police department is being disbanded for it. People like Corey of the Ontario Police, Lester Keys, Jason Knighton, Jay Burnett, 1999 badge number, D. Ramos, he's going to prison. I have a body of evidence of the demons affiliated working for the Ontario Police who are going to federal prison for engaging in what is gang stalking me, kidnapping me while doing so, engaging in what is threatening my life as they are forcing me to be in their physical presence, encountering me while they're bearing weapons, bearing badges, exhibiting authority that they don't have under the law, while they're acting in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping me because I'm documenting the entity that is gang stalking me together. Every gang stalking police officer is going to federal prison. And while engineered lights swept across the ceiling at 6:49 in the morning, understand that the mentally ill are employed by the Ontario Police Department. They're employed by AVANATH Capital Management. They're employed by the City of Ontario. They represent the local government in the City of Ontario, and they are living at AVANATH Capital Management. And that is all that you are able to be aware of while the impossible occurrence of engineered light sweeps across the ceiling, which you also know is no American citizen's figment of their imagination, as I've literally shown you video of that impossible occurrence. And it's occurring because the entity is up at 6:49 a.m. obsessed with me, knowing that I'm awake, even though I have not physically moved myself off of the couch. That's speaking to obsession. That's speaking to stalking. That's speaking to the sex offense, where they also worship my genitalia. And there shall be no existing police department that is actually consumed with maintaining rituals centering around a woman's genitalia, especially when they have not put themselves on any website for the police department, such as Ontario Police, to sit around watching, paying money, jerking on their genitalias, and having sex with each other and worship of my genitalia. They are going out of their way to interfere with my privacy, to stalk me wherever it is that I am at, to monitor every physical movement that I make, to monitor and harass and psychologically torture with regard to all of the constitutionally protected activity that I engage in on my devices inside of a constitutionally protected area, which is an apartment where the Ontario Police have no lawful authority to maintain surveillance, which you know that they are doing because of the engineered light. All right, and the maintenance of a fake sun, and the gang stalking patterns of Tracy Banks and the entity remaining at Woodside Senior Apartments. That is why the Ontario Police Department, by the way, is being disbanded, because they are engaged in worshiping my genitalia as gang members who are violent sex offenders and mentally ill psychopaths, stalking in things such as police vehicles and helicopters, literally showing that they are an entire waste of city resources in the city. And if this is the case, this is what I've proven is the case. That's why this engineer light is speaking to the disbanding of the gang members who are the Ontario Police, who are up consumed with me, gang stalking with the demons, who are also not asleep, by indication of the impossible light sweeping across the ceiling at 6:49 a.m. And this is what the entity is doing with gang stalking families like the ones you see monitoring in apartment 41. All right, on video, like you saw last night. It is currently 7:02 a.m. And so this is just giving real-time recitation of the pattern of conduct, speaking to psychological torture that gang stalking companies, property owners like AVANATH Capital Management represents, that are doing so with regard to an American citizen who ordinarily doesn't have a voice, who ordinarily doesn't have a body of evidence to prove it, who ordinarily doesn't have anyone to report it to, who ordinarily is subject to what is being kidnapped by the corrupt law enforcement agency that's stalking them and being defamed, being set up by the gang stalking family and friends, the associates who are in their lives, even strangers that don't know them, engage in things such as criminal summoning, while they're seeking to what is torment, harass, terrorize, and ultimately take their lives. So it's no small thing with regard to what is the evidence of a sex offense, and that is engineered light sweeping across the ceiling inside of this apartment, which is what happened in the dark. It's cloudy outside right now, has nothing to do with sunlight, and it's also speaking to the fact that everyone in units 33 through 64 are actually stalkers, which you already know. This is ongoing evidence speaking to why they shall remain in federal prison when they're sentenced to that, and why they should not get out. All right, that's what it's establishing, why you're disbanding the Ontario Police Department and why they're never having anything to do with law enforcement. That's what it's speaking to. Why you are punishing AVANATH Capital Management through the order of damages that are designed to devastate that corrupt company, while they're being removed from housing programs such as rent assistance to the people of the state who are gang stalking on its properties, acting to murder and kidnap and psychologically torture residents and occupants, like the entity is doing at Woodside Senior Apartments. Okay, it is currently again 7:03 a.m. on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. This is evidence of psychological torture by virtue of the terrorism via directed light, the engineered light, which is inside of a private space. It's the evidence of criminal surveillance, and it's also here with the wealth of evidence against the entity that's going to prison. For example, at Woodside Senior Apartments, we're at the point in this juncture of evidence, at this juncture with regard to the level of evidence and weight against the defendant, they're going to federal prison and they're not getting out. They're never getting out, okay? And they're already at advanced ages at Woodside Senior Apartments. They're all over 55, except for the gang stalking family that's related to the employee of AVANATH Capital Management. But however, that's not going to have them treated any differently with regard to prolonged enhanced sentences in federal prison for the impunity exhibited through things such as stalking with engineered light, doing so while you are monitoring and keeping under surveillance the targeted individual who was also the federal prosecutor, who was exposing every aspect of the criminal conduct, the criminal system of the demon-possessed that are practicing a statewide system in California, and doing so with impunity and openly exposing their mental illness with regard to further exhibiting malice and impunity. Not because their mental illness is a defense with regard to not understanding and appreciating the criminality, to appreciating how twisted and demented it is, which is with regard to what is threatening and also a means of psychologically torturing that target individual. The demon possessed derive pleasure, and now they're doing so targeting somebody who is under no circumstances being deterred from prosecuting and exposing. You're going to prison for even longer. No gang stalking police officer will have any argument in court when I prosecute them. I'm prosecuting them as a department. They're being prosecuted with regard to the evidence against every single last one of them, individually documented, who are going to prison. Gang stalking police officers shall go to federal prison. They are the definition of domestic terrorists. You're going to prison. And while I'm documenting impossible light activity inside of the apartment, that is speaking to the evidence, the weight against such terrorists who act with impunity and still continuously engage in that, exhibiting mental illness of psychopaths who are determined to commit murder and kidnapping, not mentally sick people who fail to appreciate the criminality of what they're doing, or the unwelcome behavior of what they're engaging and committing against another person. That's not that mental illness. These are psychopaths who are committed to and determined to continue, even though many are going to federal prison and they're not getting out. Okay. It is currently again 7:06 a.m. This is documentation of obstruction of justice, documentation of retaliatory behavior by the entity, documentation of malice and impunity, documentation against third-party AVANATH Capital Management, who is being civilly and criminally prosecuted. And it's all going toward the federal imprisonment of the demons in units 33 through 64 and the employees of the third-party company, Linda Reyes, and all of the employees, all of whom remain subject to the prosecution, and they are not avoiding federal prison for it. This is P.O.C. All right, it is currently Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. It's currently 9:55 a.m. It's still the same day. You will see the evidence of what is mental illness exhibited through the malice, where the pattern of conduct is underway, and then you're looking at the casualty, the nonchalant, while ongoing terrorism and psychological torture is simultaneously underway. The unabated program of psychological torture is underway, which is evidence to the specific environment where a demon-possessed person is gang stalking. And that is government action, state action. None of it's constitutionally protected, none of it's private activity or speech. And it's also where, again, corporate actors such as AVANATH Capital Management, LLC, and RGS Landscaping, as you will always also see, always is funny, you will always see AVANATH Capital Management, yes, but while I'm at Woodside. But the entity is gang stalking via RGS, which you are aware of. RGS is at the same venue where I'm showing you the fake sun and images. When you're looking at the third party, creating light activity and audible activity in alignment, this is where I'm documenting the prolonged duration of what is the method of psychological torture, criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment with the engineered light, which is also a documented fact. The engineer light that spreads across the defendant's ceiling, that is dynamic, reaching into the depths of the apartment. That is distinct from the evidence of what is identifying a defendant engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring where the fake sun is idle over your apartment or over your place of work. You are gang stalking. You're engaged in the government's malicious system as the population is targeting one person, and they're doing that in order to murder that person. And those are the specific facts with regard to what the state of California is doing, even in real time. Everything is occurring in engineered light. You will see the images of engineered light touching the palm of my hand, which is not sunlight. This is ongoing monitoring of evidence using the microwave. This is ongoing audible activity by a psychopath who is going to die in a mental asylum. Okay? This is a third party. This is a mentally sick third party, the hitman, that is on assignment to murder me, and the entity is still gang stalking with the hitman, and they're also going to federal prison for gang stalking with someone who has conspired to murder the targeted individual. They are aiding in furtherance of committing that murder, and they also do so while federal stalking on devices on the internet, and with impunity that you are witnessing, and malice that you're also witnessing when you're looking at the environment and you're looking at the ongoing monitoring inside of an apartment complex and inside of an apartment, which is a private space. What else is that? The admission to being violent sex offenders, not just as the population, not just in the shoes of the government, but also commercially. RGS is gang stalking and is committing the sex offense and is fully engaged in the hours of psychological torture that I documented as of 6:49 in the morning, where even in the middle of the day, sunlight is not sprawling across your ceiling, like is documented inside of this same apartment, where your understanding activity is being created to monitor the one whom the hitman conspired to secretly murder, and that secret conspiracy has been spoiled. So now you're witnessing a mentally ill person being publicly exposed before she is arrested and going to be federally prosecuted and put into a mental asylum, where such predators and serial killers like this third party who is demon possessed, that's where they belong. Okay, because this is what they commit as a statewide effort. This is what the demons of the Ontario Police Department are using helicopters to commit and facilitate. All right. The entity is doing so. I want to be clear. You'll see the fake sun over the apartment at 9:52 in the morning. You'll see the engineered light, not sunlight, concentrated through a peephole on the palm of my hand at 9:52 in the morning. You will see relevant positioning and activity creation inside of that apartment. Doing so, you're also looking at not only the elements of monitoring, you're aware of the mental illness that is also becoming conspicuous, as you are aware of what is conspicuous stalking. Conspicuous stalking, which is also designed to and inherently intended to psychologically harm the target individual that is suspecting that people that they know and people that they don't know are targeting, perhaps in ways in which that they can't yet put their finger on, or they're not sure, but they're suspecting, and always something bad is happening when I'm around this person, but they're always smiling in my face, and they act like they're my friend, but I'm not sure, and it's really starting to disturb me. In fact, I'm starting to question my own sanity. You know what? I'm actually starting to think maybe I should take my own life. This is what the entity is engaging in psychological torture for. And the Ontario Police Department is going to be disbanded for it. The Ontario Police Department is going to be disbanded for being gang members who are violent sex offenders. They spend thousands of dollars using helicopters to monitor my genitalia. They spend thousands of dollars on using and gassing up and sitting around stalking in the sky space and pacing around like demons do under the fake sun and engineered light, and inside of an apartment filled with engineered light, i.e. the defendant you'll see in the images at 9:52. They do so with regard to stalking me all day long. And I want to be clear, I don't have the most exciting life right now. They're sitting around obsessing over me while I'm watching YouTube videos. I am publishing evidence. Oh, they're very interested in that. But I want to be clear, if I have indigestion, if I'm doing my nails, if I am plucking my eyebrows, the Ontario Police Department is obsessed with that, and they're sitting around spending thousands of dollars gang stalking, including using helicopters, in order to keep me and that activity under surveillance on an ongoing basis. That's why they're being disbanded. All right. In addition to the fact that they're doing so in furtherance of an effort of the city, the population, including corrupt businesses like RGS, who are creating activity outside of the apartment while Tracy Banks is inside of the apartment surrounding with activity under the fake sun and in engineered light, while I am documenting hours of prolonged terrorism by impossible light activity, which is also captured as a matter of video evidence, because Satan is a liar and so are the demon possessed. Okay, so you'll see at 6:49 a.m. I'm documenting ILA that is moving across the ceiling in the same way that it is also right now at 10:01 a.m. And this is speaking to, again, the demons that are working for RGS. I documented their images. I documented their license plates. They're going to federal prison. All that is evidence speaking to the fact that they're willing to go to federal prison, again, for hitmen, for witches like Tracy Banks, who are not going to help them. She's not going to put a dime toward their defense, which they don't have under the Constitution. There is no attorney. There's no government actor that can defend them with regard to being engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. Their company's resources is not going to aid them. The people of the state that are going to federal prison as well are equally unassisted with regard to the evidence of what is domestic terrorism, while you are inextricably linked to what is federal group stalking and monitoring under the fake sun that's stationary over me and engineered light that is dynamic and stationary around me inside of the apartment. And they also engage in what is the demonic method of stalking in the path with knowledge of what I'm doing. Okay, so you're not prosecuting for what is what I am speaking to, merely narrating about what some defendant knows. You're prosecuting because the purpose of surveillance is accomplished in that demonic environment, which is established as a specific environment, and everything is maliciously executing the criminal surveillance movement in what is engineered light. That's why I'm showing you what's piercing through the peephole, while you see the logo RGS in relevant position outside, and dynamic light is moving across the ceiling on the inside. You are not only engaged in criminal surveillance on behalf of the government, that is a documented gang stalker that likes to use helicopters to do so, because the entity is also doing so with regard to every knowledge regarding what I'm doing. That's how you are understanding and prosecuting for what the defendants who are engaged in what is intentional and malicious presence in this engineered environment, and what you are inevitably and reasonably accused with and proven to be aware of while you're in that environment. And that is speaking to the amplified audible activity. That is speaking to the stalking with light activity. That is speaking to the simultaneity of activity while I'm inside of what is an apartment where sunlight is never bending at some sharp perpendicular angle, shooting through the peephole and appearing on the kitchen wall like it is right now at what is 10:03 a.m. This is, again, while RGS is being documented. You saw them in images and in screenshots. You've seen them on video at 7 in the morning, even at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock right now. That's 3 hours of an idle sun. That's the factual evidence prosecuting what is the government's program of psychological torture and domestic terrorism, which is how the government is murdering and using hitmen like Tracy Banks in order to accomplish that. The unabated program of psychological torture precedes what is the commission of a malicious murder. And also the entity that has conspired my murder is also proven in what is going to be the federal prosecution, things that this entity has already committed, proving the ongoing plot, the conspiracy to commit murder, to murder me and gang stalk me until the entity murdered me. This is what RGS is intentionally aware of. They're aware of. You're not gang stalking somebody that you don't know is being targeted. Stalking is a targeting crime. You're stalking somebody who you know who they are, and RGS's knowledge and RGS's employees' knowledge is shown through the specific environment, because there is no sun that's also simultaneously over my head in Los Angeles on this day in 2024, like I documented at 9:40 in the morning on March 4, 2024, where you will see the fake sun directly over my head. You will see the ongoing documentation, which I'm capturing on a daily basis in March of 2024. And the entity is keeping that fake sun while I'm at my office on this day in 2024. And the fake sun is not only over my head, you're looking at it simultaneously while at 9:52 minutes later on the same day, and the 365 days later, minutes apart, the fake sun is outside of Tracy Banks' front door, where she is continuously monitoring and not doing so under any protection of the Constitution. This demon is using things such as the microwave, the refrigerator, the kitchen lights, and walking around in what is engineered light that's shooting through the kitchen, that's sweeping across the ceiling, that's flashing inside of her apartment, that's appearing underneath her covered patio, under what is a idle fake sun that is speaking to what Alvarado Gardens, the people of the state, were doing, gang stalking me with LAPD, and what Woodside Senior Apartments is doing, gang stalking with Ontario PD, who are engaging in what is this ongoing prolonged method of what is psychological torture, like I document in the documents entitled State Action. Ontario Police is being is engaged in gang stalking me, and doing so with the people of the state who I identify. Every license plate, gang stalking with the police, they're going to prison, irrespective of whether they live in units 33 through 64. Okay, that's in the podcast that I documented yesterday. That's already covered, as I am creating and editing that document in order to upload it to the folder where you can see it for March 3rd, 2025. This is where the entity is at 8:02 a.m. and you will see me taking images, taking a screenshot, for example, and it's minutes apart with regard to what I'm taking screenshots of, i.e. the Ontario police gang stalking by helicopter in concert with the demons that are a family of gang stalkers, a family of demons, a family of murderous psychopaths who also are in custody of children whom they are a threat to, especially while they're still gang stalking in real time. While I'm speaking to engineer light sweeping across the ceiling, that family of demons and gang stalkers are engaging in that act of terrorism while still in custody of children in real time, while they are also monitoring me with this hitman inside of the apartment, monitoring me with RGS outside of the apartment, monitoring with Woodside Senior Apartments as a whole venue while they are living under the fake sun that's over their apartment building. Okay, to monitor me with the population that includes RGS. That is why they are going to federal prison. And as I'm capturing them engaging in that, the entity that's being documented is the same actors, the same entity that is engaging in what are documented acts of psychological torture, such as what is video evidence, because the demon possessed the government, hitmen like Tracy Banks, who are malicious and delusional psychopaths, very dangerous threats to the public and also to themselves, is what you'll learn. And more about her mental illness will be revealed publicly. The more that she's exposed, the more that she is confronted with her criminal acts, for which she will not be able to explain. And she'll do that in what is a public forum, and then also when she's confined. And this demon has been trying to conceal severe mental illness, which is that which is psychopathic, what is manifesting and what is murdering people, sexually violating children, gang stalking people, doing so in her own apartment, which is what you see, while the demon doesn't have to say a word to me. Just opening and closing your refrigerator, you're accomplishing monitoring. And that's in furtherance of murder. It is very much gang stalking in the private space, and you're going to prison for such an intolerable level of facilitation while the government is operating this program of federal group stalking and monitoring, and doing so with ease, doing so with that level of disregard, disinterest. And remember, these are demons that are under no circumstances, you don't appear innocent, which is what the demons seek to appear as, while the target individual ordinarily doesn't have evidence. So this demon doesn't look like, this third party doesn't look like an innocent person. This third party doesn't look like somebody that's ignorant. This third party looks like the malicious psychopath, the diabolical predator, the dangerous co-conspirator to murder that she is, while she is gang stalking with the entity that all of them know that I am documenting them in real time. So that's why the engineer light, by the way, is sweeping across the ceiling. And you also know that I'm not making any of these details up, because I have thoroughly documented the pattern of conduct. You have also seen engineer light not only stationary across the ceiling, but you've seen it sweeping across the cabinets inside of the same kitchen where this hitman is monitoring. As you heard on the podcast, all the activity here in the kitchen, the demons monitor me. And what you'll see on the images while standing in the kitchen, turning the lights on, opening and closing the microwave, the refrigerator, going to the trash can, this is a demon pacing, monitoring in that same kitchen where you saw impossible light activity sweeping across those same cabinets. This demon is monitoring, okay? And doing so with the same police department that's demon possessed, okay? That's obsessed with me doing the most mundane things, minding my business, in other words. And you have a bunch of sex offenders and stalkers who have taken an oath that they under no circumstances actually understand or revere or respect, while they're a gang stalking terrorist organization masquerading as a law enforcement agency. And that is also proven by hard facts. That is in the form of what is years of evidence of gang stalking by helicopters. Okay, the entity exhibits and communicates hostility by gang stalking through the demon possessed population, who do so inside of their apartment buildings, who do so while they're gang stalking through commercial actors like RGS and AVANATH employees. Through the pacing conduct, the demons are exhibiting hostility. Through the gang stalkers that are stalking in traffic, the entity is exhibiting hostility. Through the amplified train activity and amplified plane activity, the demons are exemplifying and exhibiting hostility. Through pacing inside of the apartment where the fake sun is remaining over me and engineer light is swooping across your ceiling, the demons are exhibiting hostility while they are all monitoring and keeping my devices under surveillance and keeping me under surveillance. And I want to be clear, that hostility that I'm documenting, it is not for no reason. It's relevant to the threat that the government, it's the threat that the people of the state in the shoes of the government are communicating, which is an impermissible threat. Pay attention to the legislation that I advocate regarding the impermissible threat posed by the entity. At the point at which documentation has commenced, the government is now targeting an American citizen that is no longer ignorant about it, even though the government has no lawful basis whatsoever or authority to keep an American citizen under surveillance without any warrant or probable cause. Doing so by placing them on things such as a terrorist list just to target that American citizen is also a criminal act. It does not support or create, that is manufacturing a basis of monitoring and gang stalking someone, and they will be prosecuted for that. You are not in fact a terrorist because the corrupt government identifies you as such. I am pointing out all the ways in which the government is engaging in that P.O.C. But I want to be clear, the government doesn't even necessarily have to have you placed on a terrorist list. They'll just start gang stalking you, period, in order to try to substantiate, oh, well, we were doing this and we were investigating this and we were engaged in this activity because we were investigating based on the fact that the targeted individual was unlawfully placed, maliciously placed, because they know that they're not a terrorist. They know that they've committed no wrong. The entity is not gang stalking somebody that's a criminal. Okay, the entity is doing so with malice, and you will be put in federal prison. Everybody having to do with that level of defamation, that level of threatening the life of a targeted individual, were literally psychopaths, murderous sex offenders like the Ontario police, who bear weapons, who use and fly helicopters, who drive around stalking in police vehicles and engaging in surveillance of a woman, not only her genitalia, as they obsess over her nudity and everything that's going on inside of a bathroom, but they're also, while she's doing something like filing her nails, they're obsessed with it, and they are diligently stalking and monitoring every aspect of that manicure as it's completed. That's how obsessed a police department and how much resources they're wasting on criminal activity. Not to say that I am not entertaining, not to say that I am not something that is worthy of paying attention to. Okay, I'm just being a little comical there, but I'm not under any circumstances diminishing my worth or diminishing who I am as a person. I'm speaking to the fact that the government has no legitimate interest in it, and the fact that they are so obsessed with it, and they are also wasting millions and millions of dollars on what is criminal activity. The police engaging criminal activity that they're spending and budgeting for, that's a waste of resources. And that police department that is also engaged in kidnapping and criminal defamation is going to be disbanded. This is what is being documented while RGS is outside gang stalking and the entity is inside gang stalking and not doing so by themselves. Everybody gang stalking around me, including AVANATH employees, Linda Reyes, and the family, the pack of demons that live with the employee of AVANATH Capital Management in Unit 41. They're all going to prison, and they speak to the fact that they are mentally ill because they don't mind, they welcome federal prison, while I am capturing evidence and the engineered light, which you already know exists as a matter of fact, and the fact that I've already established my credibility, and I don't need to make up any tales about the government being obsessed with me and plotting to murder me, in concert with a hitman whom I refer to ordinarily in my ignorance as Mom. Okay, the entity is indeed engaging in that level of impunity and malice because this is how obsessed the demon-possessed are. That's legally analyzed as impunity and malice, and that obsession of the demon-possessed population is direct, and that impunity is directly relevant to how long RGS employees are going to federal prison. You can see in the images that I captured yesterday, again on another day, they are not engaged in any lawful completion of a contract between AVANATH and RGS. They are gang stalking while the engineer light sweeps across the ceiling, and the ongoing existence of any contract regarding what business that they were accomplishing on the grounds is an admission to criminal presence and activity creation and in furtherance of what is psychological torture, because these malicious psychopaths are at the same time gang stalking, and they derive pleasure and engage in documented acts of retaliation while they are monitoring evidence, and they know that I documented them, and they are engaged in psychological torture, which is also retaliation against the target individual who is documenting them, and that's what RGS is being prosecuted for. And their admission of regarding, oh, we were digging up this and we were putting these rocks here and we were there for such and such hours, they're all admissions that are going to be serving to prosecute them. Nobody has a right to work here, live here, be around here, because this is how the government, the demons like the Ontario Police Department, maintain criminal surveillance. They require the population to be around me, including those who you are blood related to, like the hitman Tracy Banks, who is going to a mental asylum for the ease with which she targets a relative of hers, the ease with which and the comfort she exhibits in gang stalking a relative and targeting one who also is aware of it and continuously doing so, not exhibiting any sort of remorse, not exhibiting the fact that she has an actual like heart beating in her chest, as opposed to a metal ice box where she does not exhibit the ability to have any remorse, to have any compassion for human beings, for children, for animals. This is the type of person that will harm defenseless beings like that. And this is why she's engaged in and in concert with every other relative of mine and every other person she knows and that I know in trying to murder me. And this is for a prolonged period. The gang stalking system is evidence of her criminal conspiracy to commit murder. It is literally evidence of the premeditation to commit murder, not some manslaughter, not second-degree murder. It is conspiracy to murder by evidence of federal group stalking and monitoring. Understand what this criminal system is proof of, okay, and what the entity intends to do while it's engaging in it. And while people like RGS employees are going to federal prison, these Latino males who are gang stalking, if any of them are immigrants, they're being deported, but they are going to federal prison. And while they target via things such as impossible light activity sweeping across the ceiling, and I'll go ahead and reference the video where you can look at that light activity because that's what's coexisting with my audio podcast that I'm capturing now and everything that I was documenting while I was uploading evidence onto the Google Drive. And the demons, they rely on what is inherently terrorizing. These are demons, these are psychopaths. And so Satan, in other words, the demon possessed are relying on, ooh, something demonic, something creepy. I'm going to move across the ceiling with impossible light and scare the bejesus out of you in order to stop you from documenting, in order to scare you and impede upon a federal investigation, in order to obstruct justice and psychologically harm you and distract you away from ongoing documentation, which the entity that is demon possessed, employing such demonic methods that are impossible to naturally occur in an environment that is a supernatural phenomenon, such as a idle sun for 9+ hours, rising and setting at one address, such as sunlight reaching through the depths of the apartment through a peephole and fanning across into the depths onto the floor and onto the ceiling. Doing so while engineer light is manifesting on the sidewalk in the shade so that the demons can monitor just walking around, walking their dogs, walking their kids, gang stalking another person, showing that they need to be removed from those children, by the way. But the entity is doing so while it is monitoring as a whole apartment complex, which is in concert with the entity that's monitoring me altogether. They are exhibiting their mental illness. That is directly informing whether they're going to prison or whether they're going to a mental asylum. This one in this apartment, Tracy Banks is going to a mental asylum based on the level of malice exhibited, this bloodthirsty, violent predator that is, again, excited and gratified by the notion of me suffering, by the notion of my life being taken, and her also doing things such as defaming my character when all I've done my life's work is maintaining an impeccable history, because I did at one point intend to go into politics, be in Congress, and I did my whole research about a lot of the senators went to law school. That's what informed my decision to go to law school. They have law degrees, they have legal expertise, because I had such high aspirations. And so it is within what has always been my focus. Never have I been on any sort of place myself rather on any sort of platform where I would be seen nude, or not even nude, showing any of my body parts. I'm not even on Facebook. I don't maintain social media, and I would never put myself in those sort of circumstances because I don't find it to be particularly flattering. Like I've seen other politicians in the U.S. Senate and in Congress, and they have embarrassing photos that come out of nowhere because they made poor decisions when they were younger before they aspired to such levels of power, which I knew from the outset when I went to college and when I went to law school what I wanted to do. And it's not because I have some secret desire to show people pictures of my genitalia and of my breasts and of me naked and how beautiful my I never wanted to do that. I'm not into that, actually. It's not my forte, okay? But I'm just saying it's so beside my character, and it's actually distinct from what were my professional aspirations. This is totally beside who I am, and no person can ever say that I ever sent them a text message of any of my body parts. Not to say that I haven't had perverts solicit it, but I've never responded, and I never would. And anything that is trying to that has put out, that has been shared, it's a matter of public defamation amongst the entity that's gang stalking. It is literally evidence of a gang stalker. The gang stalkers are engaged in criminal defamation together. And they are engaged in, Satan, the demon possessed, are engaged in an ongoing deliberate agenda seeking to defame my character because they are promiscuous, because they engage in sex rituals, because they like to seek validation for sharing their breasts, the only means whereby they can feel like they're someone as opposed to being intelligent and advanced at writing or something else. You know, this is the type of things that those sort of people engage in. And because they're envious of me, the demon possessed, because you're going from their personal issues to now we're getting into criminal activity. And this is not tortious defamation. This is criminal defamation in furtherance of murdering me and murdering also my character. Before you do that, this is the entity that is gang stalking, and every act that is of record is also going to come to light in the prosecution of this entity that knows exactly who I am and engaged in what is a concentrated, concerted effort to murder my character and murder me. And there are a lot of people that are going to prison for it, and it includes the malicious actor, the psychopath. That is, again, sociopathic tendencies, no conscience. While you're looking at them monitoring in the kitchen, where engineered light you've seen on video sweeping across the ceiling, that's what's ongoing from 8:02. As I'm documenting on this podcast, I believe that was 10:01 a.m. That's the hitman that's seeking to murder me, and that's no longer a secret. And so I'm in real time exposing that, and you are also getting a tremendous amount of context regarding why the police department in Ontario is being disbanded. What's the criminal system that they are acting in conformity to? What's the purpose and the shared condition and the shared motivation of who are demon possessed in positions of government, demon possessed amongst the population who are together engaging in a concerted effort to target one person. And while they do so, the evidence is always pointing back at their mental illness. The demons that are gang stalking in helicopters, while the entity is being documented and they're monitoring on my devices, and I'm subject to what is the prolonged, again, over 2 hours of psychological torture by engineered light that the federal court knows is not a hallucination, because they're also going to review the evidence of the engineered light inside of this apartment, of the body of evidence showing there is a whole playlist on YouTube where you can see manifestations of the engineer light, all of the engineer light tactics, which the stalkers coexisting with their stalking presence with the engineer light. What is that speaking to? Woodside senior apartment residents are all stalking. This is the evidence that surrounds them, the demon possessed, who also happen to be very much intellectually inept, unpracticed, and unprepared with regard to how their demonic activity exposes their mental illness and how long they shall be subject to federal prison. Mental asylums also necessary with regard to this revealed mental illness, and all the ways in which their mental illness is manifesting in trying to psychologically harm a federal prosecutor. Okay, this is not going to accomplish it. So this is, again, the entity that's being documented for gang stalking with the Ontario Police by helicopter, like I documented, at 2:07 in the morning, March 3rd, 2025, at 5:50 in the evening on March 3rd, 2025, at 6:07 p.m. on March 3rd, 2025, the entity that's gang stalking, as I identified them by license plate, by unit number. And remember, the whole entity is gang stalking with the Ontario Police. But I'm documenting those that are crossing path in front of my face, whose amplified noise is occurring right in my presence. And I'm reciting your license plate. I'm capturing your images. I'm naming off your apartment number. They're going to prison for that. Their address. You're going to prison, and you are also going to be subject to what is becoming necessary, a mental asylum, as opposed to versus federal prison, based on your mental illness, as the entity keeps my devices under surveillance and with an effort to criminally obstruct justice uses the demonic occurrence of engineer light, just dynamic sweeping across, which the entity knows is a fact. And so does the federal court. The federal court is going to prosecute for terrorism and psychological torture in furtherance of murdering me. Knows it's a fact, and it's occurring while I'm documenting on my devices that the same demons are keeping under surveillance. Those same demons gang stalking with the Ontario Police, like I documented yesterday, March 3rd, 2025, they're all subject to, in Unit 41, I told you, and I've documented what supports mental asylums for every adult in that apartment based on the level of obsession, as opposed to ceasing from engaging in in that which you are not capable to freely engage in, and that which is being exposed that you're engaging in concert with a hitman who intends to murder someone, which you are aware of. That's why you're targeting me, and you do more of it as opposed to less of it when an American citizen who has a right to not be subject to it enforces their rights and documents it to prosecute you. A mentally sick person engages in targeting in this manner, period, but a mentally sick person, very severely disturbed, engages in more of that conduct, and doing so in manners such as impossible light activity. This is speaking to a psychopath. And these psychopaths are in custody of minor children. Psychopaths are bearing logos such as RGS outside of this apartment while I'm documenting it. And I want to be clear, seriously, on March 4th, 2024, the entity is documented very heavily today in 2025, because you will see the body of evidence that I captured today, and the fake sun is remaining. I captured video of looks like 5 o'clock in the morning, where gang stalking by Universal Waste is indeed captured. And this is again analogous to what the entity that is gang stalking the city of Ontario, who is monitoring on an ongoing systematic basis while I am remaining inside of the unit, and the amplified audible activity at any point in the day. It's not just the fact that they're systematically monitoring as a means of domestic terrorism in the city of Ontario. This is how the city of Ontario is engaging in systematic terrorism. But as I document the city of Ontario in the same way that Universal Waste is and has and was documented, engaging in what is monitoring me inside of my apartment, which is a sex offense by a commercial actor who is acting with the state. And they would tend to do so with the LAPD. They would tend to do so while I'm documenting the impossible occurrence of things such as impossible light moving across my ceiling in the dark while I'm on my third floor apartment. And it is under no circumstances having anything to do with the vehicle that would empty the dumpsters in LA at Alvarado Gardens, driving in and out of the parking lot. That's the same pattern of conduct underway at Alvarado Gardens while the engineer light, for example, sweeps across the ceiling, and it has nothing to do with any vehicle lights. It has nothing to do with any sunlight. It's the pattern of stalking with engineered light, however. And there are thousands of videos that are currently published on YouTube to educate yourself about the hardcore facts and evidence prosecuting the people of the state for federal group stalking and monitoring, prosecuting RGS for federal group stalking and monitoring, prosecuting Linda Reyes and every other employee for federal group stalking and monitoring, prosecuting all the demons going to federal prison and the demons in Unit 41 who are subject to, and the evidence supports, mental asylums versus federal prison at Woodside Senior Apartments, which represent nothing other than a property, a community that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, where the pattern of conduct of stalking via impossible light is underway. Okay, and using that as a means to try to impede upon a federal investigation speaks to the mental illness of the Ontario Police Department, speaks to the mental illness of the hitman residing in this apartment where that impossible light activity is occurring. It points right back to the defendant. Do you understand that? This is what the entity sought to engage in against an ordinary target individual who does not have evidence, who is also, and reasonably so, they're not weaklings. I am not just empathizing, I understand, because I'm in the position of the ordinary target individual in order to speak on their behalf. The ordinary target individual has no evidence and cannot even bear what the entity is targeting them with. They can't bear it. All right. It is that which would and cause and has already caused many people to take their lives for much less than what I've documented. For much less than what I've documented. A good month or so of gang stalking by the Ontario police and this hitman is resulting in what is, if not suicide, they would have already murdered me. Okay. And for that criminal purpose, not the fact that you aren't able to get away with it. You're going to federal prison because that's what you conspired to do. And the evidence also proves that. That's why they're all going to prison. Every demon that's gang stalking with the Ontario police, with all the demons living in units 33 through 64, they can't seem to help themselves with the amplified noise. They can't seem to help themselves with the engineer lights sweeping across the ceiling. They can't seem to help themselves under a fake sun, speaking to context regarding everything you're doing. None of it lawful, all of it prosecuting you, not hurting me. Okay? That's what the entity is at 10:29 a.m. amplified booming. The demon in unit number 55, everybody already knows she's going to a mental asylum. This is a shared condition, and while the entity's criminal activity continuously supports what is severe mental instability, you're already at risk for gang stalking. You're already not sane. These are psychopaths just running about without any criminal records regarding the average gang stalker, by the way. There are many criminals who are gang stalking in California, and by convicts. There are many convicts because you can have been committed of a crime and not committed any other crimes, and perhaps gainfully employed or whatever the circumstance may be. They're gang stalking, though. There are plenty of convicts gang stalking in the state of California who have not been convicted of the sex offenders that they are, the predators that they are, the mentally ill that they've not been diagnosed with it. And I'm speaking to what is their shared condition, and the more evidence that they provide showing that, and that is being conclusively proven. While I'm documenting you, you're keeping my devices under surveillance. This engineer light is going toward whether you're going to prison or whether you're going to an asylum. The entity votes for an asylum while they are gang stalking a federal prosecutor who is literally itemizing their offenses and the ways in which you're going to prosecute such predators, such terrorists who are intentionally acting to try to cause someone to want to kill themselves, who are intentionally acting to try to cause somebody to be in a circumstance where they're so psychologically broken down, mentally questioning everything about their own identity and their life and everyone around them so that they can murder them and claim that they killed themselves, or claim that they just disappeared, or claim that they just couldn't take it anymore so they drove themselves off of the bridge. All right? These are the same demons that are maliciously murdering people. All right, this is the entity that is going to prison in units 33 through 64. They're going to prison. Yes, this is no small thing regarding to the violence against mankind is what the American citizens in California are committing. It is domestic terrorism. It's under the corrupt leadership of Mike Lorenz, under the corrupt leadership of Paul Leon, under the corrupt leadership of Alan D. Wapner. He's over the gang stalking airport. That's being shut down. The police department's being disbanded. There are dozens and dozens and dozens. I mean that. You know, a dozen equals 12, and I said dozen 3 times, and that's minimal. 36, there's more than that, but I'm just speaking to dozens and dozens and dozens of demons that are currently employed, whether they got another job somewhere, they're not escaping federal law, they're going to prison. I already documented no terrorist is going to be documented and avoid federal prison, just like any other terrorist blowing up buildings and killing people. Terrorists that are gang stalking, which is what police officers are while they are gang stalking, they're going to federal prison. With the Ontario Police Department, I've encountered them. I documented every single last one of them going to federal prison, and they are done with law enforcement, and that police department is being disbanded. They like to sit around gang stalking, wasting millions of dollars on monitoring what's between my legs, what's going on with me in the bathroom. That's not a legitimate interest, and it's perverted, and it's quite disgusting while they share that obsession and interest with businesses like AVANATH Capital Management, while they systematically engage in it through employing domestic terrorists, because that's what Linda Reyes is. Okay, they facilitate it by maintaining it through the means of their business and profiting, because that's what this demon inside of Unit 51 is, Tracy Banks, and the demon in Unit 55, license 5WUB715 is. That's what RGS, gang stalking by landscaping, that's what they represent. Yeah, that they're going to prison. They're going to prison. This is a systematic means of domestic terrorism and psychological torture. And so you're going to break that malice down in order to understand it. It is important to study it for professionals, because this is a level of mental illness that's more popular than they would like to suggest or admit. And I'm not talking about the demons in California. They abuse this mental health crisis, this mental health phenomenon with regard to defaming and kidnapping people. I'm not talking about the corrupt demons they bring shame to the medical profession, by the way. They cannot be trusted. And that's speaking to all the people that are currently kidnapped somewhere based on the criminal acts, the malicious acts of psychopaths diagnosing other people with mental illnesses while they're gang stalking mental health professionals in California. And I said exactly what I said. Every single last one of them are demons. Every hospital, okay, every mental health ward, they're gang stalkers. And they, like I've documented, are engaging in the pattern of conduct trying to kidnap and defame people like me, whose mindset is advanced and pristine, in order to identify theirs and prosecute them for what they do to other people who are ignorant and unaware about what they're subject to and how to enforce their rights against it. This is why laws under, by the way, the Welfare and Institutions Code, they have to change. This is what they did to Britney Spears. This is a celebrity. This is what her family did to her. By the way, I believe it was in California. This is what the gang stalking system results in. They did it to me. I'm not a celebrity. However, they did it to me as a licensed attorney. It does not matter who you think you are. I know the law. I practice law. Britney Spears, for example, is a celebrity. You're talking about with regard to what should be access to power. And you're talking about being under all circumstances still bullied by a corrupt system who will designate you in whatever way they want to designate you for whatever purposes. There will be a lot of people that say, well, you know, you can't really state that and you can't compare that because you don't know the details of Britney Spears' situation. And she engaged in a lot of things that exhibited the fact that perhaps, well, not the fact that exhibited perhaps exhibited herself in ways that were unflattering, that perhaps cause question to her mental illness. And I want to be clear, the entity that is gang stalking is skilled at falsely depicting your character in images. She's a celebrity. These demons do wield cameras, and they are engaging in what is a pattern of conduct intending to falsely depict your character. She has a lot of money. She has a lot of money. And the government and her family, third parties, are controlling it while they are engaging in what is a campaign of falsely depicting her. And Britney Spears represents the ignorant third party. Excuse me, not an ignorant third party, but an ignorant victim who would agree to meeting with therapists, who would agree to meeting with mental health specialists who are doing nothing. They can say the way you colored in pictures in a book, you're bipolar because of that. Do you understand how imprecise and non-scientific and criminal and malicious in California this so-called system of diagnosing mental illness is? That does not mean that Britney Spears actually suffered from mental illness. She sounds to me like somebody who was frustrated by being taken advantage of and controlled by her family, where she's the one with the talent, she's the one with the skills, she's the one with the wherewithal, making all the money, and they just want to abuse it and have her locked away while they spend it. That's what she sounds like to me. The same set of facts and information sounds to me like somebody who was understandably probably depressed a little, probably angry, okay, probably acting out in ways which is going to be falsely depicted in the public for serving the entity's purposes. That doesn't equal mental illness. That does not equal mental illness. And it also doesn't equal mental illness because the government that is gang stalking in California says so. No, it doesn't. The state of California is entirely corrupt. And they actually don't have the authority under the federal law, under any law. They don't have authority under the Constitution because California is engaged in criminal surveillance. And people like Britney Spears have rights that she's not even aware of. And she's being represented by lawyers that are not genuinely representing her interests either. This is how you are subject to criminal defamation. That's how it happens. So I just want to give you an example where you've seen it on a broader scale, regardless of what your opinion is about Britney Spears. This has nothing to do. I'm not some Britney Spears fanatic. I don't have any of her albums. I'm just giving a real life example as to how this same P.O.C. has been executed against a third party. Under all circumstances, the government is engaging in what is abusing the system of mental health, the system where the entity is keeping American citizens under surveillance. She's out there in L.A. She's out there amongst corrupt third parties who engage in criminal summoning. They manufacture information. They bully you into meeting with people that you don't want to meet. They write up things on paper. She's not even thinking about this. She's not mindful of it. And her attorneys are not genuinely interested in dissecting those things and literally removing it. This is, I'm just speaking to what has happened in the past. Just give you an example. This is able to occur in many, many, many different ways. But the Welfare and Institutions Code, for example, these laws need to change because what the entity has engaged in against me, criminal defamation, against somebody that under no circumstances have I ever engaged in what is trafficking myself, exposing my own body to the public. I'm not interested in such things, and nothing about my own behavior. People that actually know me can factually and truthfully state that. I've never been that person. And if I was, I want to be clear, free to do with my body what that still doesn't give the government and that doesn't give any demon that's related to me, that's envious of me, that wants my body, wants what it is that I look like and the decisions I made, that wants to be me, in other words, that doesn't give them a right to engage in the P.O.C. against me. So I just want to be clear, whether I was a whore or not. I'm not, though. I'm not a whore. I'm not engaged in whorish activities. I'm not into showing my body and what it looks like. I've never been into that. I'm more of an academic. I've been in college and law school. I've been engaged in my academic pursuits for most of my life. I'm trying to build my career for most of my life. And this isn't to substantiate or try to, I don't have to establish or prove anything about myself. The evidence speaks for itself. I just want to give an example here. Whether you are somebody that is on, what is it, OnlyFans, making money for showing your nude body, I can even advocate and argue on behalf of that person. First of all, it's freedom of speech. Second of all, the government doesn't have a right to keep you under surveillance, which the entity is doing, and using that to falsely depict you as some sort of, at the same time, you're some sort of mentally inept person, while you're choosing to do that with your body or whatever, but using that to criminally defame you, interfere while they are keeping you under surveillance, while they're gang stalking you and targeting you, because this is essentially what the entity is doing. And using somebody that perhaps is a little more into, because I don't necessarily see being nude in front of people as an expression of freedom. It's actually the opposite, but nonetheless, and that's, neither here nor there. But like I said, being your freedom under the Constitution, you're free. Under the Constitution, legally speaking, you are very much free. If you want to show your breast to people, then you can do that. But the entity does not have a right under any circumstances to keep you under surveillance, to traffic you, to do so unbeknownst to you while they're engaged in things such as voyeurism, and they're targeting you in an obsessive manner like the entity that is gang stalking. They don't have a right to do that, whether you place yourself on OnlyFans or whether you are the direct opposite of that. And you don't even have a Facebook page for my own personal uses. I have an Instagram for documentation purposes, in order that if someone were to look up my name, you'll see the Instagram, you'll see that it will route you right to the website. It'll route you to the YouTube channel. And that's how I use social media, period. Okay, I've never been interested in that. And just giving an example, even if I was, it under no circumstances gives the government, under existing state and federal constitutions, to do what the government is doing, which is federal group stalking and monitoring with the people of the state. None of it. And making it up, I want to be clear, showing your breast does not equal mental illness. It doesn't. It does not. These are things that are literally anomalies in how the entity is able to do these sorts of things with this evidence that I'm showing you is evidence of the entity gang stalking, not evidence of mental illness of the ordinary target individual that can't prove impossible light activity. They don't even have a nomenclature. They don't even have like a naming convention for it. They're also likely ignorant of the fact that it's demonic and that demons are stalking. Demon-possessed people are stalking them. They're not aware about all of that. Okay, but this is also speaking to, again, the entity that's engaged in such a psychotic and dark pattern of conduct. That also has to be proven. And I understand that as somebody that is well practiced in the law and how you prove and prosecute a case, because talking about demons is not going to get justice. In fact, the malicious entity will try to contort that into some sort of a delusion of mental illness, which also that doesn't. The entity, in other words, what am I getting to? Because the entity can generate the notion of mental illness out of anything. That does not necessarily mean that this practicing of this, it's imprecise and it's very ambiguous and subjective. And the entity, you have a lot of people that have accepted these curses, speaking it over themselves, but it feeds into the targeting system that the state of California is practicing. And I just want to be clear, speaking unequivocally, that is not establishing mental illness, because what would be absent the ordinary target individual? I have the facts, I have the evidence, I have all the proof. The prosecution is complete. So let's entertain the ordinary target individual who is speaking factually about what they're actually experiencing and surrounded by, but they don't have the proof. So they're not actually mentally ill. So this is what I'm speaking to. They're not actually mentally ill because they don't have the wherewithal or the ability to prove it. And my heart goes out to the ordinary target individual in that circumstance, because that's why they're gang stalking people. That's why they're doing it. And it's wicked. It is wicked and it's out of hell. That's why you go to federal prison. They're trying to exterminate human beings, and they are the demon possessed. They are the corrupt government. It is public corruption, and the organized crime of federal group stalking and monitoring that can get to people in positions like Britney Spears. It can. And this is what she was subject to. She's not, there is no addressing this system in California, but that's what she was subject to. That's what her family is. That's what they committed against her. That's what she was subject to, in concert with her family. Okay. This is the P.O.C. where somebody in my position, it is analogous to a celebrity status, where, and by celebrity status, I don't mean that I have a bunch of fans and that I put on any records. What I mean is somebody that you would think would be incapable of being surrounded by this. This is a celebrity having resources. There's a level of power and access that she would have, but succumbing to the pattern of conduct. I am not a celebrity, but having somebody that knows the law, practices law, a legal scholar, okay, an attorney, in other words, subject to the same criminal system. Okay, because the government that is engaged in abusing its position in concert with those whom you are closest to, claiming whatever, just making it up, just making it up which with regard to what it is that is quote unquote wrong with you, while they are under all circumstances targeting you, psychologically targeting you. And then, okay, we've got her with the ILA. Now let's take pictures of her freaking out right now. And now that's what we're going to take to the court and go ahead and in the secret court hearings surrounding her or him, establish that we need power of attorney because this person is sick. And this is something that they do in secret. This is something that they do outside of the knowledge of the target individual. And even when that is not the case, the target individual that does not know about their rights, that doesn't understand the ways in which a corrupt government is targeting, does so while even acting complicit to it. You're agreeing to speak with these mental health professionals, these therapists, these so-called psychiatrists. You're aiding in their execution of this P.O.C. There is no. This is what I'm speaking with regard to being targeted. But even so, even where the entity has coerced, because it is a means of coercion, where you're talking to somebody, it's while criminal surveillance is underway. It's while the entity is seeking to establish what is a manufactured mental illness or incapacity or something, and none of it, in other words, I'm speaking to what's not going to be used against the target individual. The target individual's mindset is literally legally irrelevant. It's not relevant to the prosecution of the state, where its mental illness is actually inherently, inextricably a part of the controversy, where they're gang stalking. All right. And all the ways in which they're gang stalking. At 10:43 a.m., I want to speak to, again, the ongoing use of what is engineer light sweeping across this demon. The defendant, Tracy Banks, is ceiling while RGS is outside. So this is speaking to the P.O.C., and I want you to look at the body of evidence, what I documented today. It's a playlist on the YouTube channel. It's published on the YouTube, on the YouTube channel of the P.O.C., and it's also published on the website for the P.O.C. The website is thisisthepoc.wordpress.com, and you can look at any day. You can look at time of year analysis regarding 2024, what's happening in January, February, March. This is time of year analysis, and my evidence shows January, February, March, the entity is having a sun rise in alignment to me through my apartment window in the living room and set in alignment to me. As you will watch, the entity keeps the fake sun until the end of the day, where I both live and work at this venue at Alvarado Gardens, and you will also see the evidence of the entity that is gang stalking through the Los Angeles Police Department, which is exactly the same entity that is the Ontario Police Department, who is gang stalking. They're sex offenders. They're using police resources and tools and devices to engage in surveillance in an apartment, at an apartment complex, where the supernatural remains underway, which is the proof that the police are gang stalking. It's proof that the population is gang stalking, and so is the engineer light, which is also a matter of documented evidence, which you will juxtapose with March 4th, 2024, even today as well. Okay, the entity was keeping the fake sun, as I documented at 9. Let me see. Well, before 9 o'clock, but I'm documenting the sunrise, 6:30 in the morning on March 4th, 2024. I'm documenting the entity has the fake sun over the apartments, units 33 through 48, as I just documented RGS gang stalking under the 7 a.m. fake sun. That's not outside of my living room window, causing any sunlight through my closed blinds in my living room, sunlight that's on the walls, upright, creating my magnified shadow on my living room walls in Los Angeles in my Alvarado Gardens apartment at 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6. That's all engineer light that fills my third floor apartment, the living room window that faces the hillside, where that fake sun remains over me as I walk downstairs from my apartment to my leasing office on the same property grounds, where that fake sun remains in alignment to me as I walk to that office building, and that's where the fake sun remains planted all day long, while I documented the Los Angeles Police Department in concert with the people of the state residing at Alvarado Gardens, acting with the population gang stalking as a citywide effort, while I remained including in the workspace, which speaker companies engaged in as well, intentionally and knowingly, and they premeditated that federal system, that federal offense, in conformity to that system. That's why they hired me. That's why the entity hired me, in other words. because they're not a private company. They're not engaged in any constitutionally protected any constitutionally protected right to operate a business. They are in the shoes of the state, a third-party company that's engaging in hiring the target individual to target them on the job, to target them where I live, because that job provided that apartment where I was subject to this pattern of conduct, and where no sunlight is ever going to sweep across the ceiling inside of an apartment building. Okay, in the same way, inside of my ceiling in the living room, inside of my ceiling in the kitchen, inside of the apartment on the ceiling in the living room, inside of my apartment on the ceiling in the hallway, in the kitchen, and in my bedroom, both stationary and directed light that was dynamic on the ceilings inside of that apartment. That's not sunlight, and that's the same pattern that you see inside where this demon is monitoring in her kitchen, monitoring while pacing all around, monitoring while the engineer light, and I'm speaking to the evidence. It's going to be submitted in federal court. These people are going to prison, as clearly as I can articulate it, and all the angles of that criminal system is a matter of hardcore evidence that nobody has to sit around and say, well, I don't know, she said it, but is it proven? We don't know, because we can't establish, and perhaps it's not constitutional and it's not fair with regard to the being prosecuted beyond a reasonable doubt for engaging in the criminal offense of what is surveillance in such unprecedented. No, we don't have all that. There's no pontification about what the entity is doing, and the entity is also demonic, targeting somebody in such demonic methods, inherently designed to psychologically torture someone while they have plotted to murder me. That includes the Ontario Police Department. And demons like D. Ramos are going to prison for it. Okay? So this is, again, 16 times sweeping east and west across Tracy Banks' ceiling inside of her apartment as of 6:49 this morning. Engineer light inside of the depths, that's a demonic supernatural occurrence. It is accomplishing surveillance. It's accomplishing surveillance on devices. It's accomplishing surveillance of my person as well inside of the apartment. And it's occurring while people are physically surrounding me. Those people are stalking. And they are stalking where they live and where they're working and where they're visiting, like RGS. And RGS is also legally analyzed as acting with impunity, while RGS is monitoring online, monitoring on my devices, and monitoring while this documentation is being captured. Those Latino males and females, whoever they are, their identity, their license plates have been documented. The commercial actor has been documented. This documentation is not existing in isolation. Those employees that are gang stalking on the property with AVANATH, with the demons in units 33 through 64, with the demons who come onto the grounds, gang stalking like who I documented in the 8:56 a.m. video yesterday on March 3rd, 2025, who are all under a fake sun and molesting me with engineer light while they're driving around in the parking lot while the fake sun remains over this same apartment building, like, hours later at 3 o'clock, when you can clearly see it over the same end of the apartment building that it was at 9 o'clock, while I was documenting these demons coming onto the grounds gang stalking me. Duration of time analysis is what I just referenced. So 8:56 a.m. until 3 o'clock, let's count together. That will be 8:56, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 56. That's 6 hours. Later, 6 hours later from what you saw RGS doing, which is exactly what I told you, they're gang stalking. And they're gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department, who was gang stalking at 2:07 in the morning in Engineer Light, in concert with the demons that live at the at the residence, which is a facilitating venue. They were gang stalking at 5:50 p.m. with the residents who are gang stalking. They were gang stalking at 6:07 p.m. with the residents who are gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. And they're all going to federal prison in units 33 through 64. And so are the employees who are acting on a systematic basis in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, gang stalking with impunity, while engineer light is sweeping across the ceiling. That is 16 times as of 6:49 a.m. Okay, before the fake sun rose. It has nothing to do with the fake sun. It's a means of surveillance, and it's also inherently designed to psychologically torture. And with regard to the prosecution civilly and criminally of AVANATH Capital Management, it's the criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, while a corrupt landlord company like Speaker Companies is engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture while they're profiting, while they are systematically and criminally facilitating and maliciously facilitating the state's pattern of conduct and designed to keep an American citizen under surveillance in the apartment where they are an occupant and or resident, in violation of their constitutional rights, and that landlord company is fully aware of it. And you are going to be held accountable for it, reasonably so, while your employees are gang stalking, which is already proven evidence, while your residents are gang stalking, which is already proven evidence, while people are free to come onto your property and gang stalk, in furtherance of murder, by the way, with the government, who relies on that population. You are going to be prosecuted. And that criminal interference with quiet enjoyment occurring 16 times, this is again relevant to damages and relevant to federal imprisonment of its employees at Woodside Senior Apartments. They're all gang stalking with the hitman, Tracy Banks. Okay, they're all doing this in furtherance of what is the desire of such psychopaths, of such sex offenders, of such demon-possessed gang stalkers, to murder somebody, to murder me. And so I'm openly exposing that now. They're not going to accomplish it, but this is what the government, this is what Tracy Banks has done before. This is what the city of Ontario, the Ontario police have committed before. They're clearly not amateurs at this. This is what the city of Ontario is routinely, that i.e. Paul Leon is routinely engaging in as a government citywide effort, a statewide effort, if you will. This is what they do to American citizens. This is what they do. All right. And this is speaking to domestic terrorism and psychological torture, which is met with federal prison at the level of intolerable facilitation that AVANATH Capital Management represents, and that RGS and RGS's employees represent, and those that are residing in units 33 through 64, and those whose license plates I document gang stalking with the gang members who are the Ontario police, who are being disbanded for being murderers and kidnappers, using helicopters and police vehicles, dressing up in costumes like police officers while they're stalking and surveilling somebody in order to have that person murdered, to murder them or cover up that murder, help that murder be more efficiently executed while they are obsessively stalking and monitoring that person, psychologically torturing that person in furtherance of committing that malicious murder. That's why the Ontario police is being they will be subject to mental examinations, but that's why they are being disbanded. Okay, and that's also why it's not sufficient. But they are being removed from law enforcement, meaning you're not going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism in one state and then go to another county or to another state and you're going to re-enter law enforcement. No, you're not. You can be prosecuted for terrorism one time while in law enforcement, and you're done with law enforcement. You're done for the rest of your life, however long that demon lives. And if they ever repent, they don't have to be a demon, but that demon is done with law enforcement. I know that much. That is the fate of Mike Lorenz and every other demon, many of whom are documented terrorists who are going to prison. It's going to be disbanded, but that entire department is done with law enforcement. Okay. And that is just what is entirely just unacceptable with regard to the coexistence, the antithetical, this oxymoronic circumstance of police and terrorism, police and stalking, police and monitoring, criminal monitoring, police and demonic activity. Okay, you're being removed. It's an absurd level of what is just unacceptable. This has to be literally remedied by removing it altogether. Okay, that's something that cannot be fixed. You're going to remove that police department. Okay, that's not to say the feds are not capable. There needs to be some rehabilitation, but the Ontario Police Department shall be no more. Based on that level of which is just under no circumstances in any state is ever going to be accepted and tolerated, and just, we're just going to, we'll take those officers that did that and then we're going to keep the rest of it. You need to understand, first of all, the whole department is compromised. Satan owns the Ontario Police Department. And as I speak that truth, Satan is stalking with amplified noise. They are being removed and they know it while they're monitoring me inside of an apartment space, and their mental illness, you know it. The world is witnessing it. While Satan has been exerting control over the demons who are the Ontario Police for a long time. I am not the only American citizen whom they have conspired to murder and kidnap and defame. But I am the last one that they will commit that against, because the Ontario Police Department, by its bowing down to Satan and being publicly shamed and prosecuted for it, they shall be no more, because no police department shall commit in America, in North America, what the Ontario Police Department has committed and is continuously committed, which is speaking to the mental illness of those who have been compromised by Satan, the demon possessed. Again, and that's 10:57 a.m. amplified noise, as demonic as the impossible light activity. All of which is all angles of that have been already established and proven through evidence. You've heard the demonic with regard to the ceiling and the walls. I've documented it on video. I've documented it on podcast. And this is simultaneity of conduct under the fake sun. That's the demon-possessed Ontario police who are monitoring. The demons are exhibiting hostility together, while a demon in 55 is stalking with noise, while the demons of the Ontario police are currently being spoken about. Okay, in the same way that the demons of the Ontario International Airport will hover over the senior citizen complex, nowhere near any Terminal 2 or Terminal 4 where planes are taking off. Any of the airlines from Ontario International Airport, none of them. But nonetheless, they do so with regard to exhibiting hostility while the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments are being documented. It's a demonic, concerted effort. And that bullying of American citizens by the mentally ill population who are targeting American citizens, i.e. domestic terrorism and psychological torture, that is federal group stalking and monitoring, they're going to prison, all right? And that ongoing stalking with amplified noise, that ongoing stalking with impossible light activity, the mental illness is so severe that they continue, and that's why I'm documenting it, because the mental illness is so severe. In other words, there's such a threat to themselves and the public that federal prison and mental asylums are necessary in order to protect the public, in order to protect the children that they're in custody to, all right? In order to protect other people because of the ongoing hostility, the fury that psychopaths that want to be free to commit murder in secret and get away with it, to commit sexual violence against people, against children, and get away with it, to even not only get away with it, but get away with it through accusing other innocent people for it and calling that justice, because that's what people like the departments like the Ontario Police Department and the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, that's what they engage in. That's what the Sheriff's Department, that's what they do with regard to the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. This is how the demons are engaging in this unjust system. And by mere amplified audible activity, by mere impossible light activity, by mere residence and employment under the fake sun, you're going to prison, all right? Doing so with the government that provides evidence against you, gang stalking by helicopter with the family, that family of adults are going to prison. Just as an example, but I'm specifically referencing the demons in Unit 41. The evidence is supporting mental asylums for those terrorists while they continuously exhibit hostility to their lawlessness, okay? That's mental illness exposed, okay? I mean, rampant, severe mental illness, okay? That's somebody that wants to, oh my goodness, I'm so mad because you won't let me murder you. That's somebody that needs to be locked up for the benefit, for the protection of the public. And this is, again, the government. This is a national security issue, and it's currently a threat near you because you are in the specific environment. While the fake sun is remaining over these demons at Woodside that are gang stalking me, the specific environment is over you. And they are deranged psychopaths who want to try to get away with murdering their relatives, murdering their siblings, murdering their neighbors, murdering their co-workers, murdering strangers whom they're encountering and out in public, and it appearing as though on the surface as just some, unfortunate occurrence that, the police are going to investigate. Perhaps we'll solve it. Maybe we can't, maybe we will, maybe we won't. But this is how the entities engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. That same set of facts is pursuant to a very diligently maintained system. And that diligence is not due to intelligence. I'm showing you under the fake sun, they're not intelligent. I'm showing you the stalker with helicopter. It doesn't get any more obvious. Okay, well, we know who's stalking here. It's not like intelligence. It's speaking to Satan, which is demonic. Okay, that's how you get that level of precision, because it's demonic. Demons are using the entity that is gang stalking. Okay, it is currently 11:02 a.m. And so I do want to go over some things just to remind you what RGS is committing again on another day, prolonged psychological torture, which RGS is subject to damages for, and its employees are going to federal prison for it. This is with regard to what justice requires when you are gang stalking and then continuously engaging in that gang stalking system, as though the state government is ever going to dictate to the federal government that it's going to, we're going to just exemplifying what the impermissible threat that the state government is communicating, that we're going to continue targeting an American citizen and furtherance of murdering them, regardless of the fact that it's fully known. It's not even a secret anymore. Evidence is on a daily basis and on an ongoing basis accumulated, shown to the world, and shown to, most importantly, the feds to prosecute not mysterious actors, not unknown foreign actors, but very specific known actors and an entity. And as though you're going to defy federal law and continuously do so, and also avoid what are very severe consequences, and they're not. All right. And it's also speaking to the demented mind state, which needs to, under all circumstances, be taken into account. RGS is gang stalking, the license 7N98091. This is the third party company that is captured, engaged in criminal presence They're gang stalking with the amplified noise. They're monitoring me, and they're engaging in a sex offense as a company and as individuals. They're also engaged in federal stalking. They're in violation of the Violence Against Women Act while they are stalking me, a woman, inside of an apartment that at a HUD-regulated property, and they continuously exhibit the ongoing determination to do so. Speaking to impunity, that's speaking to the threat that a sex offender exhibits and represents. That's speaking to the threat that a predator, that a stalker exhibits, okay? And that's in violation of the Violence Against Women Act that the company and the employees exhibit while they're gang stalking me. And they're also monitoring evidence about the fact that I am capturing them gang stalking me. And it is the same with regard to, I believe it's 41917W3, I believe. I'll go ahead and repeat that right now. Regarding the RGS license plates of the entity that are gang stalking with the venue. Remember, everything that Woodside Senior Apartments, this is P.O.C. headquarters. So all the entity is doing is just interchanging faces. They just take their time coming onto the grounds. It's just an ongoing cycle of presence and activity while the fake sun sits here over me all day long. And the stalkers that live at the residence, they sit here all day long, pacing around. Your work schedule is not an excuse, because while they go to work, they're crossing paths, monitoring me on their way out. Demons are maintaining activity and presence and activity in concert with the state on an ongoing basis. So you're not being removed. Your place of residence at the crime scene is the basis, the mandated requirement for federal prison. And where you provide such an evidence, such as impossible light activity while you're being documented, such as engaging in what is an ongoing obsession with some illusion of retaliation. This is evidence that's going to be submitted against you and everybody in your family in federal court. This is somebody that's mentally ill that belongs in a mental asylum. While the entity is engaging in that ongoing pattern of, by the way, against a federal prosecutor, you are very mentally deluded, okay? But this is speaking to the entity that's going to be subject to what is mental asylums versus federal prison. But it is nonetheless mandatory confinement where the entity is gang stalking by residents. And that's what Woodside Senior Apartments is engaging in. So I want to make sure time that I do get all of the license plates that I did capture and make sure that I recite, because they are the ones that are present. The entity is maintaining presence. They're doing so on an ongoing obsessive basis. So engineer light that's dynamic across the ceiling inside of this defendant's apartment is coexisting with what is criminal presence in the path outside. And they are monitoring, in other words, inside of a private space, committing a sex offense as a population, as a city. This is removing the mayor from office, okay? And doing so with regard to knowledge that an American citizen is documenting. They're monitoring, keeping my devices under surveillance while committing a sex offense, monitoring not just my genitalia, but monitoring my devices, monitoring me and my physical movement, everything I'm doing, whether I'm sleeping or whether I'm staring in a mirror and trying to get a sty out of my eye. They're monitoring. These demons are psychotic. They're going into the federal facilities where they belong. And their mental illness is more and more exposed the more angry that sociopaths and psychopaths become, because they're being exposed for what they have no business engaging in and no constitutionally protected right to engage in. All right. The license plate again of RGS, who is engaged in all of the documented psychological torture in concert with the Ontario Police Department in furtherance of obstruction. All right, in order to murder and kidnap the American citizen whom RGS and RGS employees are gang stalking with the entity. That's license 41973W3. Okay, it is currently, by the way, 11:07 a.m. The impunity of the hitman is relevant with regard to what is again going to be a lifelong sentence in a mental asylum. Again, I am not the only target of this hitman. There are other people who have suffered based on the maniacal personality defect of this predator, of this serial killer. In doing so, investigating is exactly what would be surfaced when looking into this hitman that conspired to murder me, a relative, okay, of the entity. And that's what this third party represents. This is the entity that's inside of her apartment stalking me and monitoring me, threatening me, psychologically torturing me, and posing an impermissible threat to me, meaning you're doing so while the federal government is documenting you, because that's what I represent to this hitman, and she's going to a mental asylum. It's currently, again, 11:08 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, it's currently 1:12 p.m. This is ongoing documentation to prosecute a corrupt company such as AVANATH Capital Management. This is a third party and not a lawful operation of and property management company, and nor is it a private property, a private residence. This is a facilitating venue where the government is maintaining a criminal system of surveillance and is stalking, and through the unprecedented and spectacular means of the entire population. And that entire population at what is a venue masquerading as a private residence is AVANATH Capital Management's Woodside Senior Apartments, where at 1:11 p.m. I want to document this is going to prosecute the company, and it's going to prosecute the company's civilly and criminally, and it's going toward federal prison of its employees, and the demons that are gang stalking within the pattern of conduct. That's speaking to the civil ways you're going to prosecute the entity. With the entity that's engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct, the same population is just living at an apartment complex, gang stalking with this exposed hitman, and this demon possessed person, the defendant that lives inside of the unit, where engineered light is swiping across her ceiling, appearing on the hallway closet door, reaching into the depths of the kitchen on the kitchen wall, piercing through radiantly through the peephole. I'm capturing the fake sun, as you can see it, at 9:53 in the morning, and it's still over my head at the same front door as I capture at 12:35 a.m. If you're aware of what I documented on video at 12:37 p.m. on this day in 2024, you are mindful of the fact that I was comparing the fact that the fake sun was over my head at the same time, I believe in 2020, when I was breaking out with the documentation of the specific environment. The more that I was subject to the entity that was stalking me, and then stalking me with the entire environment as well, putting all those pieces together in order to prosecute the demon-possessed entity that is the state of California. When I'm in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens at my leasing office at 12:37 p.m., which is not at Tracy Banks' front door at 408 West G Street in Ontario, California, specifically at apartment 51, on the grounds of the venue, in between units 33 through 64, very specific. I'm facing the direction south at apartment 51, and which is east of Vine Avenue and north of G Street. At 12:35 p.m., you will see a demon-possessed gang stalker wearing a FedEx vest. That doesn't mean that they are a FedEx employee. The very demons who are being disbanded are capable, the Ontario police are capable of wearing a FedEx vest and stalking outside of the apartment. Nonetheless, this is a gang stalker in the path, and you'll see in the images, engaging in surveillance. The light you see all over the sidewalk, all over the property, that's not sunlight. It's engineered light, and it's conspicuous stalking, and it's a federal offense, while you'll see the demon strolling behind me inside of the apartment as I'm taking these pictures, and I'm taking pictures of the specific environment, where at the same time in Los Angeles, the fake sun is in its zenith over the top of my head. Okay, this is what is already published right now on the Google Drive, shared on my website, shared in the podcast description box. You can always look at this evidence, speak into the phenomenon, and also to inform yourself, because while I'm showing you what's surrounding me for the duration of the day at one apartment, you are aware of the supernatural environment that surrounds you, because there's only one sun. And so what I am experiencing, what I'm exposing, and what I'm prosecuting, it is informing you and advising you regarding Satan, regarding Satan's minions, regarding Satan's devices. And as I am in the presence of evil, this is a demon that lives in the apartment and is existing and dwelling in darkness and wickedness. And while she's literally haunted in her mind and in her body and in her, literally the venue where she lives, all manner of like creepy light is appearing on her bedroom door, while she knows I've been embarrassing her and documenting her criminal activity, which is going to put her in a mental asylum. And the documentation of the fake sun, I just want to document 1:11 p.m. The engineered light is still appearing on the inside of this apartment, and it's appearing on the demon's bedroom door. And this is while the demon is monitoring. So this is what a demon is doing, a demon that's going to be prosecuted. But what's the purpose of the demons? The demons are intending to engage in the execution of their system, whereby, they're breaking you down so much that you're gonna wear out and you're gonna fall over. You're just gonna let them stab you 75 times and then put it like you killed yourself or something ridiculous like that. But this is the pattern of conduct, and this is the only plan that Satan has with regard to targeting somebody through a population that's demon possessed. And while I'm continuously documenting that, the entity is exposing its own mental illness, and this is somebody that's never getting out of the mental asylum. That's where she's going to expire, and that's where her gang stalking family members, if for example Eric Spencer ever gets out of federal prison, it is my purpose in documenting the level of a threat to my life for my whole life, in concert with relatives, that he not get out of prison because he is acting in furtherance of murdering me. And justice requires that you are locked up for the rest of your life. All right. It is, justice requires that it is a fair exchange, and it is also commensurate with the level of criminal conduct and the impunity that I am approached with when I'm looking at engineered light. That is psychologically harmful, regardless of the fact that I'm exposing it, prosecuting it, have documented it and proven it as a reality. And I'm also prosecuting everybody else who's group stalking with this obvious demon, with this obvious criminal, with this obvious actor within the targeting entity. And despite the fact that it's not working toward me, I'm exposing this is the plan whereby they are typically murdering and kidnapping American citizens and defaming them. And the fact that the entity is engaging in that is sufficient to put you in prison and mental asylums where they belong. Okay, the entity, because it's engaging in what is federal group stalking and monitoring against an American citizen, somebody has to be the person capable of speaking to it, confronting it, exposing it, prosecuting it, openly, publicly shaming and embarrassing the demons that are engaging in it. Somebody has to do that, and because there is one that is finally able to do that, that doesn't mean that that person gets less justice. To the contrary, they get all that justice requires and more. And not only that, they should inform how justice should be executed based on their ability to do what even the feds would not have done. They would not have done it. They would have listened to the entity, by the way. This is why justice has been prolonged, by the way, but in the end, it's going to pay, because the entity that's going to pay the consequences, they're going to pay substantial consequences. And it will look like life in federal prison. It will look like life in a mental asylum. It will look like your entire business and property is being shut down and removed, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to speak to that. At 1:11 p.m., Engineer Light is still dynamic across this demon's door. This is somebody that is entirely defeated with regard to what her purpose is before Satan and what her criminal objective is with the entity that's gang stalking. And that's speaking to, again, mental illness by that third party who is gang stalking while I'm documenting Engineer Light moving across your bedroom door. Okay, it is 1:20 p.m. where the entity is gang stalking with her while that phenomenon is underway. This is P.O.C. This is all criminal conduct by AVANATH Capital Management. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Currently 2:05 p.m. With regard to just getting same time of day and same literally day in the year. If first of all, I'd want to go over what is the maintenance of the fake sun you saw outside of this front door at 9:53 in the morning. So let's look at that. With regard to what I documented on this day in 2024, where the sun was over me at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is not sharing the sky space or over the apartment building of Woodside Senior Apartments. And the sun is not an object that's ubiquitous like the sky, meaning it's over all of us all day long, everywhere, whether you're stationary or in motion. That's not the sun. The sun is in constant movement. And I'm showing you what is stationary, contrary to what nature dictates. So this is the sun over me in Woodside, over the same apartment building, units 33 through 64. As I documented, this is not sunlight, but this is the evidence of stalking via light inside of the apartment, which is impossible with the sun being over Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles. By the way, on the same day in 2024, time of year analysis, time of day as well at 9:53. And I'm documenting hours later, this is where it remains. This is the condition, the environment inside of the apartment. That's also not sunlight. And sunlight is not just appearing like you see above the front door like that on the ceiling. And this is not sunlight that drapes and surrounds and covers the front door, the entrance. That's the pattern of stalking with light. And the sun is over the same apartment building, units 33 through 64. It's right over the top of my head. As I open the front door, you can see the same exact apartment building. Units 46, 45, 41, 42, they're all gang stalking me, while the stationary fake sun is remaining over one building. And that is, again, while I'm showing you a stalker that's engaged in surveillance. And at the same time as I'm capturing this environment, which defies nature, I turn around and the demon is gang stalking, crossing path inside, walking in engineered light, monitoring the use of my device, monitoring inside of their own home. Doing so with impunity. This is not sunlight. It doesn't coexist with the sun being over Alvarado, but you're looking at it reflecting off of the same windshield, and it's over this. For it to be reflecting off of the windshield, it's in a position to be above the vehicle to reflect off of it, okay? This is common sense. You saw the entity doing this with the fake sun yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it's over the same location, okay? What you see reflecting off of objects and reflecting on off of like windows and reflecting images or surfaces rather, it's not necessarily requiring it to be, it's an act of the demonic, in other words, because you're looking at the same exact position where the sun would be in a position to reflect off of the vehicle that will be parked in the same parking spot. And this is hours later at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you're looking at what is 12:35 in the afternoon, and a demon that's gang stalking me is doing so under the fake sun that's remaining over one apartment building. And I'm showing you just a way to identify stalking with light and stalking under a fake sun, where the entity engages in stalking with light and stalking with that fake sun by having it appear on surfaces, on windows, and it's not the sun. That's how I have, by the way, the fake sun that is seen through this window at 4 o'clock in the evening. Okay, meaning it's over this window right now. I'm going to show you that. It's over this window at 9 o'clock in the morning. When it's outside of this front door, it's reflecting. It's still in a position to reflect off of the window, and it's still in a position reflecting off the window. I'm capturing the light source itself through this same window in a 600 square foot apartment, what is over a 9-hour span of time. And I have a whole body of evidence, including what I documented today, speaking to that which defies nature. And before I also show that, I want you to see what is stalking with light inside of this apartment, which is evidence of surveillance. Surveillance is underway by the government that's acting through and in concert with the population that's engaged in criminal activity where they live. It's not a private residence, and you're not prosecuted, engaging in anything constitutionally protected. You are being prosecuted with the state that is engaging through you criminal surveillance and terrorism, a sex offense, and doing so with impunity. And this is the engineered light that you'll see mutating on the ceiling at 1:35 p.m. All right, you're looking at it's a radiant orange, and I just continuously capture documentation of the engineered light. It's luminescing underneath a patio structure. On the patio, on the floor inside of the living room. You're paying attention to the light that just continuously mutates and moves around inside. It's not sunlight. It's appearing above. It's piercing into the building. First of all, this is what you would naturally have to assume that light is doing, but light is not doing that. Light doesn't travel like air, by the way. So it's reaching and doing gymnastics from the sun above us, reaching underneath the patio structure outside. And then it's coming through the top of the blinds, through the patio glass door, into the apartment to appear on the ceiling. That's not sunlight. It is as demonic as you saw engineered light dynamic on the kitchen cabinets and then fanning away on video. That's as demonic as this is, as I capture images and you're looking at the migration of that light. Now you can see the shadow of this lamp right here above on the wall. That's impossible light activity, and it's very demonic. All right, that's speaking to terrorism, while the engineered light is moving in a very, very slow manner, okay, while I'm documenting it. And the entity that is gang stalking me and is stalking with engineered light is doing so with impunity as I document terrorism via directed light inside of a private space where the government is stalking through the population under what is an idle light source that remains present and disappears in real time, okay? This is the entity that maintains the same fake sun. This is where it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. I'm gonna go ahead and take a picture of that because this is where it's at. It's currently 2:11 p.m. This is where you're looking at the fake sun is in a position to be where the gang stalker wearing the FedEx vest for it to be reflecting off of a vehicle here, like you saw in this image, where the entity is gang stalking me with the person inside of the apartment, surrounding me inside of the apartment, moving as I move and as I operate my device. Where the fake sun is right now, this is where it would be in a substantially similar position to reflect off of a vehicle in the parking lot, okay? At this time, though, it's positioned right over me in its zenith at the front door. The position of the sun is not one that would reflect off of that windshield, okay? However, I'm telling you and I'm showing you these details to understand the demonic. This is the demonic. And also hours from now at 3 p.m., the fake sun would be in a position to create the same reflection off of a windshield. When you're looking at it, it would be directly above the same building where it is right now and where it remains after this this present time as well. This is the entity that is monitoring evidence. This is an entity that is impossible. This is a demon that's crossing path. Impossible light activity. 9CZC059 is going to federal prison. That's the same sex offender gang stalking. Is sitting in their vehicle and impossible light activity flashes on me while they drive off, while they're stalking under a fake sun. And they're the same predators that are doing so with the Ontario Police Department. So they're doing so while impossible light activity is appearing on the floor. Okay, that's not sunlight. It's appearing on the suitcase, and the demon is inside of their bedroom gang stalking. That's a sex offender and a hitman that's waiting for an opportunity to murder their relative that is being gang stalked with the state, with the demons, the neighbors, with the police department. Okay, and as I've shown from city to city and county to county, it is a statewide effort. The demon that you just saw on that license plate that I just recited, he or she is going to federal prison, and the evidence of this impossible light activity that creates my shadow on the light at a distance. This is all impossible, and it's very demonic, and it is mutually exclusive with regard to my documentation of the sun being over me in Los Angeles, which is exactly what I documented, however. All right, not only that, the entity is engaging in a pattern, parking your vehicle, being in your vehicle, living at a residence where a sun is idle over the same building, where I'm showing you what is the position of your vehicle where it's parked, and that's the same fake sun. The position that it's in right now, I want to be clear, it was over this same apartment building just feet away here at 9:53 in the morning. That's not the sun. And it's also not over Alvarado Gardens. You are looking at it over this apartment building, and that's where it's at. Just like you see it's here, and it's not over there. And it's not looking like it's inside of all their vehicles where they're driving north and south on Vine Avenue. This sun that's sitting here is not remaining over everyone, everywhere that they're going. This is sitting here right here because this is where I'm remaining, and that's what I also documented in Los Angeles, where I'm documenting the same thing I'm showing you here. That was a demon in Unit 41 stalking in her vehicle. This is a demon stalking in the path, keeping their back to me, and they're stalking me with the demon inside of her apartment in her bedroom right now. All right, and this is the entity that is gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. This is, in other words, the city of Ontario that's going to be prosecuted, okay, for domestic terrorism. And that's the supernatural while I'm capturing the fake sun over my head as I documented on video at 12:37 p.m. when I'm standing at my leasing office, and the entity has the fake sun over my head, and it is in its zenith over the top of my head at 12:37 p.m. on this day in 2024. At 12:37 p.m. The entity has kept the fake sun over the same building. So let's look at that again, because that's exactly where it was. It's over the same building. This is negligible movement with regard to that which is not the sun and that which is never in Florida. It's never reaching Florida. This is the same building. This is the same apartment building. And this was hours earlier. This is 12:35 p.m. and before that it was at 9:53 p.m. And while the demon in the black BMW drives off, impossible light activity, speaking to the fact that they are stalking me. They know what I'm doing as I do it. They're also sex offenders that also know what's going on with my genitalia, which I also did not consent to, while they're stalking everything that I do, everywhere that I go as a population, and stalking me by residents at Woodside Senior Apartments, which is also a corrupt property management company that is gang stalking with its employees. They're all going to prison. All right, and now on this time at 2:04 p.m., which is why I started this video, return to my office after going to my apartment. So you can see the light source. It's in position as I'm standing outside of building 1806. This is impossible light up here. All right, this is, again, as I'm moving my hand, you're looking at what is impossible light that's on the table. So I just want to break this down for you. If this is the sun that's remaining over me, same time of day, same time of year, literally the same day a year ago. The natural environment dictates that I would be able to see the sun over my head in Ontario, far from my leasing office, inside of the depths of my office, and never is sunlight creating your shadow like I'm showing you upright on the wall inside of my office. The angle that sunlight is appearing to appear in my office on that table is also impossible light activity. Now, when I say these things and you're not very clear about what that actually means, you are aware of the fact that the sun, because I'm documenting it, you're looking at it at the bottom of the screen. The sun that's over Woodside Senior Apartments, apartment number 41, is not in any position on the same day at the same time to aim any or create any sunlight over anyone else, by the way, in Los Angeles, let alone over me in my office, on the table, or anywhere contrary to what I documented on this day, even at the same time in Los Angeles, California. And the opposite is also true. While the sun is over me as I document in Los Angeles, this demon that's driving the black BMW is in no position to have some sort of sunlight reflect at such a great distance away from me while she's in the parking lot, he or she's in the parking lot operating that vehicle, and it's flashing me. That is a sex offender that's molesting me, speaking to their obsession and the fact that they're stalking me while that impossible light occurs while they move their vehicle. And that demon is hostile because I'm proving the fact that they are stalking me while they're sitting in their car monitoring me. That's what they're doing. You're not just sitting in there with the cooler on, just waiting for your car to warm up. And then, no, that demon is surrounding in the path under the fake sun, monitoring everything I'm doing with the psychopath that is in her bed, gang stalking her relative, for which she's going to a mental asylum for the rest of her life. This is impossible light activity. The evidence of stalking me with light is terrorism on the job. The entity is going to be prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring in the workplace. This is domestic terrorism that I was subject to in the workplace. This is an unprecedented basis of prosecution of an American government, and that which has never been proven. And not only is it proven that the government is monitoring American citizens, it's terrorism, and it's also that which I was subject to while just trying to go to work and make money. And this is the same entity that is inside of the corrupt courts, who are also gang stalkers, criminally defaming on paper so that they can steal my any property, whatever belongs to me, that the entity wants to assume and claim that I'm incapacitated, while they are targeting me in order to establish and manufacture that condition about me. And they do it secretly outside of my presence, unbeknownst to me, because they know if I knew about it, I would clearly articulate and speak to all the laws that they're violating while they do that, clearly disregarding someone who is legally trained like myself, and I can fully communicate on my own behalf. That's why the entity necessarily did it behind my back. They did it with the gang stalkers, who are the state of California, Tracy Banks, somebody that is a high school graduate trying to assume legal authority over me. I'm a licensed attorney. Okay, this is idiocy. This is ridiculous, and this is requiring and advocating and supporting the laws that must change in California, because it literally makes no sense. And the entity is diagnosing and criminally defaming and kidnapping anybody that it chooses to do that to. Okay, this is what's relevant with regard to stalking by light inside of my office at 2:04 p.m. in Los Angeles. You see these lines of light. This is all impossible light activity. This is absolutely demonic also. But it is speaking to the maintenance of the specific environment, which is always the case, and the light source which remains here, just like I... So I want you to see here, the entity has the fake sun present, and with real time, this fake sun is literally ducking behind the building. Okay, so there's no other way for me to put that, because this is speaking to the demonic environment. And so because I have facts showing that the two are not happening at the same time, the sun that's over Woodside is not creating any sunlight inside of my office at Alvarado Gardens, and the sun that is above the building would not even be in a position to aim light like gymnastics, flipping and bending underneath into the office upright, creating my shadow, my hand on the wall, and also even creating any sunlight on that table. And it's also why you don't see the sun hiding behind the building, because I started capturing video. This is very real regarding the demonic activity. Very, very real. And the fact that you don't see the light source is evidence of the fact that I am being stalked by light. Being stalked and being kept under surveillance with regard to engineered light, which you have to necessarily prove with evidence, because the entity is a demon-possessed one seeking to criminally defame you. And the fact that I have to go to that length is why people are going to mental asylums and federal prison. But that's okay, because it's going to help other people. But they're going to prison and they're going to mental asylums, and it includes everybody in units 33 through 64, all of the AVANATH employees gang stalking by employment at the venue, and doing so in concert with the government and the hitman that's inside of this apartment, acting with impunity. The impunity is legally analyzed by the engineered light, by the fake sun, by the molestation via engineered light, all the light circus light conduct inside of this apartment, it's impunity. The amplified audible activity, it's impunity. You want to go to federal prison for gang stalking me, you never want to get out of federal prison for continuously gang stalking me. And that's how that federal law is going to operate. And justice requires that. Okay, so the fact that you see the absence, the fake sun is there, it's behind the clouds. This is demonic though in real time. But that is speaking to knowledge. That's a real personality behind the environment that I am being pursued by. Okay, and it's not someone's imagination. It is high level of malice, while demons are then putting on robes and sitting in courts and calling themselves attorneys and representing the people of the state who are seeking to steal, seeking to kill someone, and seeking to defame them in doing so. The demons who are targeting you in that demonic environment. Okay, so that's what's relevant with regard to
captured at 12:37 p.m. Under no circumstances would this ever happen in the natural environment, let alone if that was the sun as I captured it in its zenith over my head at 408 West G Street, apartment number 51. All right, and in addition, sunlight does not create this impossible light activity that you see appearing and disappearing. What I'm documenting, what I'm capturing, is the prosecution of an entity that's going to be revealed as engaging in what's the methods of terrorism. And this is...
Okay, pay attention to how that engineer light disappeared. Seconds later, this is the same video, so just so that you can see that. This is the malice. This is that which is psychological torture. It's intended to drive the normal person, and by normal I mean the ordinary targeted individual who is not equipped to handle this level of targeting, not equipped to articulate clearly what is going on so that someone else can understand and perhaps help them with enforcing their rights like the federal government is going to do. This is something that causes somebody to question their own sanity, causes them to hate their own existence, and essentially helps the entity do away with them. It's called psychological torture. The light disappears.
You're looking at what is impossible light that's on the table, and you can see these lines of light. This is all impossible light activity. This is absolutely demonic also. But it is speaking to the maintenance of the specific environment, which is always the case, and the light source which remains here, just like I captured at 12:37 p.m. Under no circumstances would this ever happen in the natural environment, let alone if that was the sun as I captured it in its zenith over my head at 408 West G Street, apartment number 51. All right, and in addition, sunlight does not create this impossible light activity that you see appearing and disappearing. What I'm documenting, what I'm capturing, is the prosecution of an entity that's going to be revealed as engaging in what's the methods of terrorism. And this is the prima facie case of federal stalking and monitoring, and the entity is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted for these very methods of terrorism. This is the conduct that a targeted individual is subject to, and they can't even explain it. All right, and it terrifies them, it scares them to death. All right, and this is what you're going to prosecute the entity for while they...
All right, so that's the P.O.C. that's underway while a third-party speaker companies like the third-party AVANATH Capital Management is gang stalking me in concert with the same entity. Again, those whose name I know are part of the same entity with those whose name I don't know. It's a government effort. The entity itself is targeting together. And just to remind you, the impossible light activity that I'm documenting here is heavily captured inside of this apartment, and I will give you an example, like you've already seen, of impossible light activity. One second. All right, the entity that is gang stalking, while the entity, you're looking at the structure of the Woodside Senior Apartments complex, and the fake sun that's remaining specifically over this building that is circled is not over my office. It's not over Alvarado Gardens at the same time. So what I'm capturing is evidence of what is supernatural on its face. In addition to that, the evidence of stalking via light, like what's happening inside of the apartment, is also evidence of that.
Here is more evidence that's serving to prosecute.
This is documented days ago on February 28th at 1:33 in the afternoon, where the fake sun sits idle over me from morning until afternoon. And by the way, the video or the images that I captured today at 9:53, and I'm going to show you the fake sun in this video at 1:33, is speaking to stationary presence of the sun that also would never at the same time be over Alvarado Gardens at any point in the day. And I have a wealth of documentation from February 28th to the present, before February, after March 4th, 2024, speaking to what is ongoing evidence of stalking with light. Stalking with light is coexisting with an entity that is stalking in the path, doing so not just as a group, for example, a group of Satanists. Those Satanists are acting with the government. It's a public entity that is keeping you under surveillance with that population who are masquerading as free citizens, free to live what they want, where they want, free to shop where they want, travel where they want, when they want to, and be wherever they want, including on the private property of another, public property like the sidewalk, and that's all the malice with regard to what our facility and venue board fake sun sits all day long. That's the government, that's the police department, that's the law enforcement itself that has no warrant or probable cause to follow you around, which is evidenced through that impossible maintenance of that environment, and it's also shown through the engineer light inside
People
of
of the state, third-party AVANATH capital management. So this is engineer light that's appearing at a tremendous distance from the covered patio. Okay, and the fake sun is outside above the same apartment building where I'm located. And so as you can, well, you can't see, here's my hand. The light is shooting across horizontally, and it's creating shadow inside of, my shadow is appearing inside, and it's a magnified size of my hand. This is speaking to criminal surveillance that's happening.
At 2:27 p.m., amplification of the demon in unit number 55 is monitoring this evidence, which belongs to the feds that are going to prosecute her and the rest of the entity. And the demon inside of this apartment is monitoring with that demon that's amplifying, stomping above me under the fake sun that's stationary over the same apartment complex, and to be compared with the impossible maintenance of the sun over me in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens. That's speaking to impunity and malice. And this hitman that's inside of this apartment who is going to a mental asylum for soliciting my murder by gang stalking me with the state of California.
At what is not a private residential area or property, it's a facility and venue for surveillance. And this is also documentation of what is malice and impunity by a corrupt company, including RGS that comes onto the ground gang stalking with the company, the employees, the residents, and the city of Ontario, the population itself that's coming onto the grounds gang stalking as one entity. And the fact that I'm capturing ongoing iterations of impossible light activity, the more that I document, yeah, that's P.O.C. I've documented this before. This is the conduct of the demon possessed. Okay? That's the conduct of the demon.
All right, that's terrorism, that's psychological torture. And it is shared with what is criminal presence in your path. And it is also that which is serving criminal monitoring on communication devices and on the venue of the internet. And it is all in violation of my constitutional right to not be targeted, to not be kept under surveillance, and literally stalked by the police departments, by the state itself, who is doing so at what is Woodside Senior Apartments, not a private residence at all. And the demon in the parking lot in the black BMW that you saw driving out of the parking lot was monitoring me in doing so. And that's what RGS, a third-party company, is doing and helping the government do and helping Woodside Senior Apartments accomplish, while a bunch of gang stalkers are living at the venue committed to that 24-hour surveillance system in furtherance of murdering an American citizen. And they're aware of that. They act pursuant to that criminal objective, and it's not the first time that they've engaged in this as a state. All right. I want to be clear. This is, let me show you, because I captured the fake sun in this video, so let me let you see.
This is going on the internet. That's speaking to stalkers, including RGS. It has nothing to do, like I stated, has nothing to do with the fake sun. Okay? The fake sun is indeed over the property. These are distinct methods of recognizing criminal surveillance, and it's terrorism. And this is a sex offense. We target that supernatural ongoing occurrence. Okay? This is called the people that are stalking. That's RGS, Federal Stalking Title 18. This is called stalking in the path. And they're not ignorant about the impossible light activity, the supernatural environment. This is the engineer light that you just saw inside and dynamic engineer light. Linda Reyes is going to prison. That's what this evidence is also showing you. She's going to prison. And these are the people that are stalking.
All right, that's the evidence of what is, again, all manner of documentation showing the stationary presence of the light source that's remaining over me as I documented on this day in 2024. I am maintaining documentation, as you are able to see. I walk to my apartment, and the fake sun moves as I move toward my apartment, which is building 1806. So this is building 1808 right here. My leasing office is on the opposite side over there. So the fake sun went from being over my office to moving as I move, just like the entity does with the fake sun as I go from the apartment right here, unit 51, to walking toward the parking lot, and the fake sun remains over me as I go there. And as I walk back, I've shown video after video where the fake sun travels remaining over the roof to go right back to where I am, remaining over me, and it maintains an ongoing idle presence while hour after hour it inches toward the opposite end of the same building, which is where it's setting over me, stalking with light, with a population that is stalking together in concert with a corrupt entity. This is how you have, again, at 2:04 p.m., this is not the sun that is remaining as I'm documenting it over me, over building
apartment number 41, units 33 through 48. The two are not happening at the same time. This is the evidence of stalking with light, okay? This is while an entity is engaging in terrorism inside of the apartment, doing so with impunity, while the demons of the Ontario Police Department are monitoring me and monitoring my devices, and they also know that I'm documenting, and as I document, they engage in the terrorism using helicopters to gang stalk me, in furtherance of murdering me, and also seeking to psychologically harm me. That's relevant to the ways in which the police department that is gang stalking documented, and that are going to federal prison, how long they're going to federal prison. They're going for a very long time. This is not a small thing, what the entity is doing, and exposing this malicious system of an unabated program of psychological torture amongst a population that is stalking one person. That population is not ignorant about who that person is while they are stalking under a fake sun. The two are not happening over this at the same time. What is over building 1806, building 1808 is not over Woodside Senior Apartments, is not over what is this apartment building that I am remaining inside of this. It's not over this building, and the two are not happening, and that's requiring more than one sun. And there you are witnessing and being made aware of by facts to prove it, that this is a supernatural occurrence. This is highly malicious. These are not just, in other words, normal people. They're not just criminals who are lying, who are trying to commit a crime against me, an egregious one, and take my life also. They're also demons, and this is demonic at its core. Okay, so this is the P.O.C, and this is what I documented as I walked. Indeed, you can see the time. I'm walking to my apartment, and the fake sun is remaining over me as I walk to my apartment. And this is what I'm documenting as I walk into my office, and I'm showing you it's the fake sun that remains over me while I walk that way. So you see it here, and as I record this video, an impossible light is inside of my office, and then you're seeing the fake sun that is literally hiding in real time, because this is demonic. And the environment, which is demonic, there's a personality behind it, which is hostile to exposing it. That's speaking to the demons who are hostile, stalking me with amplified noise, stalking me in helicopters, stalking with commercial planes, stalking with amplified booms and all that, while elderly people are physically surrounding. These are demons that are hostile to being exposed. And it is how the demon possessed, that is Satan, using people, are gang stalking and psychologically torturing together, because I'm exposing them, and I'm exposing how it operates in the environment and how the demon possessed behave to monitor me.
Okay. 2:04 p.m. upon return to my office after going to my apartment. So you can see the light source. It's in position as I'm standing outside of building 1806. This is impossible light up here. All right. This is, again, as I'm moving my hand, you're looking at what is impossible light that's on the table. And you can see these lines of light. This is all impossible light activity. This is absolutely demonic also. But it is speaking to the maintenance of the specific environment, which is always the case, and the light source, which remains here, just like I captured at 12:37 p.m. Under no circumstances would this ever happen in the natural environment, let alone if that was the sun as I captured it in its zenith over my head at 408 West G Street, apartment number 51. All right, and in addition, sunlight does not create this impossible light activity that you see appearing and disappearing. What I'm documenting, what I'm capturing, is the prosecution of an entity that's going to be revealed as engaging in what's the methods of terrorism. And this is the prima facie case of federal stalking and monitoring, and the entity is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted for these very methods of terrorism. This is the conduct that a targeted individual is subject to, and they can't even explain it.
So I just want to make sure that that's clear regarding what the entity is engaging in, the malice with which the entity engages in that. And this is the license plate of the third party engaging in surveillance by stalking in the path, just like the gang stalker that is standing outside of the apartment at 12:35 p.m. wearing the FedEx vest, and under that same idle fake sun is then walking away as I'm documenting. They're still monitoring. They're not ceasing to engage in gang stalking. Your movement under the fake sun, any and everything that you're doing in operation, while I'm in operation my communication devices, they are monitoring while they do so, and they're not abandoning position. The demons are always maintaining presence. You have just another body moving around. They're monitoring together on a ceaseless basis. 9CZC059 is the sex offender that's in operation of the vehicle outside while I'm capturing this video, and my body is accosted with impossible light activity while I'm capturing the supernatural of the fake sun over this apartment building. And this is the entity that is gang stalking while in custody of minor children. All right, these are the predators that target me with the Ontario Police Department and engage in a pattern of retaliation with that police department that's going to be disbanded engaged in the sex offense of federal group stalking and monitoring and criminal acts of retaliation and intimidation while they keep my devices under surveillance and engage in what is inflicting more harm against me and targeting and harassing and terrorizing me and furtherance of murdering and kidnapping me because I'm blowing the whistle, because I'm enforcing my rights, because I'm exposing them to the feds and to the public. You go to prison for even longer, and she is going to federal prison, by the way. But these are the children that are going to be removed from custody of the people of the state. She's making them gang stalkers. They're monitoring me. You're making them gang stalkers. This is abuse, okay? And this is recognizing how the people of the state are engaging in the pattern of conduct with children, which is abuse when the federal government is aware of it, understanding what they're engaging in as they do it very maliciously, and you will lose your children just like the demons in Unit 41 shall be losing their children. And they have been aware of this, and they continuously engage in it, which is speaking to the fact that these children are indeed in danger because these demons continuously do it. All right, that is speaking to mental illness. Again, it is currently, by the way, 2:37 p.m. The entity keeps the fake sun over me, which you can see. This is all engineered light. The engineered light that was appearing before in a different color, appearing and disappearing, the shadow of this lamp appearing vertically across the ceiling, entirely demonic. This is, again, while the sun is over Alvarado Gardens, there's no sunlight, even while the sun would be, if it were in a position, this isn't the natural environment, but it's not going to appear underneath a patio structure, bending underneath, and then appearing. Remember, this is a building that I'm inside of. It's underneath the structure, and then it's coming into the apartment building to appear on the floor, and then also above my head as well. None of this is sunlight. This is surveillance by a bunch of stalkers, and the stalkers that are living in Unit 41 engage in surveillance, and they also like to monitor my genitalia between my legs. That's what you also need to know in taking those children away from them. It is currently 2:37 p.m. where the fake sun remains over the same exact apartment building, and it's on this same day in 2024 remaining over me at Alvarado Gardens like I documented. And I'm also documenting exposing surveillance by a relative who is a hitman intending to take my life. That's why she's gang stalking me, and this is an ongoing criminal effort of all my relatives, and doing so with impunity and malice. And that's speaking to all the ways in which I'm showing what is stalking by light, which is also psychologically harmful, while the entity is, this is an utter fail, but I'm exposing the malice because it's not adequate to just get any and all property that the entity has sought to steal from me by targeting me and then trying to falsely depict me in secret behind my back in what are unlawful hearings and corrupt courts who are gang stalking, and doing so while they are aware of the fact that it's also something that would require a licensed attorney, somebody that knows the law like myself, to document and prosecute. This is P.O.C. under the fake sun. Mental illness exposed. It is currently 2:38 p.m. and those are the psychopaths that are going into mental wards and gang stalking in plain view. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, when you're seeing this, 2:39 p.m. Alrighty, it is currently 2:39 p.m. I just want to make sure that an analytical note, pay attention to the impunity with regard to a serial killer that is indeed monitoring in plain view, aware of all of the evidence. Just because Satan is conducting himself like he's unfazed, understand that Satan is a psychopath, and this is the spirit I'm referencing, that is monitoring in plain view. And that's, again, disregard of federal law, engaging in what is domestic terrorism, and that's the government that's showing that ongoing disregard pertaining to what is criminal conduct of an unprecedented nature, in doing so in real time. That's speaking to the demons and the terrorists who are the Ontario police, who equally disregard the Constitution and the rights of American citizens. This is a psychopath that has murdered other people before, that is engaged in sexually preying against other people before, and that's where you're understanding the impunity, where you are surrounded with that evidence. You're going to be prosecuted. You're incriminating everybody that acted with you, and they are also going to prison, like Eric Spencer, okay? These are the same, again, the entity that's exhibiting that level of cold-blooded behavior, that level of impunity, the entity that's engaging in all manner of obsessive engagement and noise creation. It is quite pathetic, but this is the entity that gets really busy and gets real productive, and the more damning the evidence is, the more active Satan gets. This is analogous to the amplified pacing of the demon in 55, okay? And remember, it's happening under the fake sun that is stationary over her apartment, and the fake sun is at the same time over Alvarado Gardens, who were gang stalking me with this same serial killer. This is somebody that is under no circumstances in any position to exercise any lawful authority regarding the lives and circumstances of any person while this psychopath cannot handle themselves, okay? And that mental illness is no longer a secret, and that person is going to a mental asylum, the person you hear monitoring in the background. It is currently 2:41 p.m. This is evidence of malice. This is evidence of federal prison for everybody gang stalking with this demon, because in units 33 through 64, the demons, Linda Reyes and the employees of the AVANATH Capital Management, the demons that are gang stalking, who are the Ontario Police Department, very heavily documented kidnappers and criminal defamers, they are going to prison, and they're monitoring in real time with the same level of impunity and malice, and that disregard is relevant to how many years they're going to prison, to how long they're going to a mental asylum, and this one in particular is going to expire, like I said, in a mental asylum. She's not getting out, and that level of calculated, cold-blooded behavior regarding conspiring and plotting and acting in furtherance of murdering a relative, this is what they do to other people whose name they don't even have to know. Okay, so I want to be clear that that level of maniacal, psychopathic behavior, sociopathic personality traits, that's speaking to the demonic environment that's inside of where she lives as well. All right, this is the entity that is gang stalking with impunity, and that's directly informing sentencing. It is currently, again, 2:42 p.m. This is criminal activity by AVANATH Capital Management. This is P.O.C.